take him, this is our time. Just breathe, this will be a hard fight. The truth cash out in the night.
What's up, everybody? Who do we got in the chat room tonight? I see we've got Sharon, of course. She's always the first one in. We got Amanda. I know that John Stewart was in earlier. I don't know if he's still there, but hopefully he is. Somebody give me a thumbs up. Tell me if I sound all right. So tonight, it's just me again. We have a great guest, but Johnny can't make it tonight. It is his daughter's birthday, and he is doing the family thing and spending time with his daughter. And I think that's fantastic. We promote family. We think it's extremely important. And so there is no issue there. And I've got his back all the time. So the show must go on. We will always have a show when it's scheduled. And Johnny will be with us hopefully next week. And we do have another guest next week. And then we'll finally get a Friday break. So, but other than that, been a great week. I feel a whole lot better. I think I'm about 100% better from my spider bite. So antibiotics did their job, and I am good to go. Everything else seems to be good. Works good. Everything's good. It's just entirely too hot to go out in the woods. I have not been out in a couple of weeks. I do plan on going tomorrow and setting up some cameras if I can. And but it is supposed to be a rainy weekend, so we'll see how that works out. If I can get out there early enough, I will set up trail cams and leave them out there for a week again, and then pick them up the following week and see what I got. But other than that, not a whole lot going on. Life is good. God is good. Everything is wonderful. So somebody give me a thumbs up if I sound all right, because I was having some issues with my headphones earlier, so I just want to make sure everything's good to go. So our guest tonight is Adam. He is up in the Upper Peninsula, but he is originally from Florida, so that's cool. We got that in common and everything. So he's going to come on. He's going to talk about his encounter and stuff like that. And he also has thank you, Sharon. I appreciate that. You're awesome. I can always count on you. And thank you, Lone Mob. Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. Good to see you. Glad you're here. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into the show. I'm going to bring Adam on and introduce him. Hey, Adam, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good.
Good, man. So how's the weather up there in the Upper Peninsula?
Not as hot as it is down there in Florida. I think we are in the upper 70s up here, maybe just low 80s. But
Wow.
It's been pretty good. Last week, at nighttime, there was a couple nights where it got down to like 48, 49 degrees. So.
Oh, wow. Already. Jeez. Now we're in triple digits almost every single day, which is funny because it'll say 97 degrees, 98 degrees, but feels like 106, 110. Well, if it feels like 110, then it's 110. Don't give me the other. I know what it feels like. It's a broiler. It's literally, it literally feels like if you're baking a freaking pizza and you open the oven and that heat hits you in the face. That's what it feels like. When you walk outside. That's what it feels like. It's really hot, and so that's why I haven't been out in the woods lately because let's put it this way. I get up at 4 a.m. to go to work. I'm actually leaving in my car by 4 a.m., 4:15, and it's already in the 80s. So it goes on to tell you how that day is going to go. But today we got rains pretty early, so it's kind of cool out right now. It's probably in the upper 70s, mid 70s, so it's really nice outside right now. So, all right, man. So you're married, got kids?
Yeah, I'm married, got 4 kids. United States Navy veteran.
We appreciate your service. I'm prior Navy as well.
Yeah, I remember you bringing that up, and over in Japan, and I was stationed over there as well in Yokosuka.
I was in
So
Yokosuka. I was
yeah,
in Yokosuka.
it's pretty cool hearing about someone else who was stationed over there and stuff like that. It really took me by surprise when we had you on our show.
What ship were you on a ship?
The USS Kitty Hawk,
Oh, the
CV
Kitty Hawk.
63. Yeah.
Oh, see, when I was there, the CV was the USS Midway. It was called the Midway
Okay.
Battle. It was the Midway Battle Group, and Lone Mob says, "Thank you for your service. We appreciate that."
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, I was on the USS Towers guided missile destroyer. I was there from '86 to '92, and with the Midway Battle Group. That was the group I was with, Seventh Fleet. Now, what year were you there? Well, you're a lot younger than I am, so um, now the commander destroyer squadron over there was a guy named Captain Wiley, um, Ezron or Reed over there. But when I was in, he was my commander. He was my captain on my ship before he got that title of Com Desron. So he moved up.
Yeah, we had Admiral Wren. He was a two-star admiral over there. Um, I forget the captain. We used to call we were kind of smart asses, so we would say his first name just because we didn't really care for him. Todd Zekin or something like that, if I'm saying his last name correctly. So that was our
Yeah,
captain.
we always nicknamed our captains and any officers we didn't like. My first captain was Captain Beers, so his nickname was Six Pack. We had Captain Wiley, so we called him Wiley Coyote Super Genius. Um, we had Captain Michaelis, so we called him Mad Dog Michaelis. And we had an officer we didn't like. His name was Pettigrew, so we called him Not a Clue Pettigrew. So we always coming up with these names for these guys. We always said it'd take
Yeah.
a college degree to break it and a high school diploma to fix it. So, all right, man. So let's go back here. Let's look at your past. Before you had your initial encounter, and I find this really interesting. How did you feel about the whole Bigfoot phenomenon before you even had your encounter?
I didn't believe it. I was probably the biggest skeptic in the world. You couldn't tell me that these things existed. I would actually make fun of you about the subject and crack the jokes and everything like that. And I kind of feel bad about it now, and I have apologized to people about it. But that's how I used to make fun of my dad and little brother and things like that. And my little brother was probably the first one who I apologized to, and also my grandfather as well. So, you know,
And they're all believers.
oh,
They all believe that they've had their
absolutely.
enough
They
to
never
tell
had,
them that.
yeah, they
Yeah, go
never
ahead.
had an encounter or anything like that. They always believed in it. And I'm one of those people you got to see it to believe it, and I came from, I lived in Port St. Lucie basically my whole life. So down there in St. Lucie County, we were probably about like 10 miles from the beach or something like that. So I grew up by the beach and not a lot of woods areas. It just, if anything, it was when I was younger, it was the Patterson Gimlin film. Like when I was a little boy, everybody's seen that clip. And, I had that thought of, okay, if there was one, there was only one so long ago over there in California. It's not alive anymore. Other than that, I didn't believe in them.
So now that you've changed and you had an encounter and you brought it up to your family, how did they take it? How did they treat you after you came to them,
I
apologized, and said, "Hey, I believe in this thing"?
My little brother, he accepted it. He was like, "No, it's no problem. I totally get it." Things like that, and I just kept saying, "I'm so sorry to you, man." And like, I wish I would have known. I really feel bad about it, and I feel terrible. And I still do sometimes. And I'll never do that again. I'll listen to people. Hey, if you come to me, me or Todd, my buddy here, who I do the show with, we'll sit there and we'll listen to you. No matter how crazy it sounds, just hey, you could talk to us about it. So My grandfather, yeah, he laughed and chuckled about it, and he was like, he always had that belief in him, and I could really confide in him too, as
Right.
well.
Yeah. That bond with a grandfather is amazing. I miss my grandfather. He was a great guy. Really awesome dude. So then, so when did you go over your encounter with them and explain to them what had happened?
Oh yeah, yeah. I told him exactly what happened and how it went down because it just didn't happen at first. It took a long time for it to happen. And
Right.
then it's like the chain of events that led up to it. It kind of sparked my interest of if it's going to happen, it's going to happen in a place like this. And I believe I was kind of watching the show and everything. I kind of went over with you the other night, like
Yeah.
how it all came to. But
Well,
it,
let's
it
go
took
back
a
to that
very long
day.
time.
Yeah, let's go back to that day, leading up to that encounter. Okay, so go through that day. Tell us about that day and what led up to it.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning when I first moved up here, correct?
Oh, just wherever you want to start. Go ahead.
Okay. I first want to say, like, I gotta say this. I don't categorize these things as anything paranormal, anything that has to do with UFOs or ETs or anything like that. I keep them off in their own separate subject. So I don't want anybody get confused of I associate all these things together. But 2017, me and my wife, we decided to move up here to first to Wisconsin. They call it the North Woods, the area we live in, and it was to a town called Minocqua. Sorry. And she has family and everything. She wanted to be closer back home with her family and stuff like that. And I totally understood. So we packed up our things and we moved up. This house that we lived in, and I'm not going to stay too long on this subject. It was the freakiest house I ever lived in, and this was also the first time ever living in the woods, as well. So, yeah, there was things that happened. Like I was hearing, like probably the second or third night we were there, I was hearing knocking on this glass door we had, and I looked at, I woke up and after I heard the knocking, and it was probably about a minute later, I hear knock, 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 hit three knocks. And I was like, okay, I heard that. So I wake my wife up, and it was about another minute later. She heard it as well, but it was raining that night. And those moon roofs that people have down in Florida? We
Right.
have one of those as well. And so I know what raindrop sounds like on one of those from living in Florida all my life. It wasn't that. It was actual knocking on this glass door of the house. So anyway, she was like, "Don't worry about it. Just go back to sleep." I was kind of a little worried about it, but I put my guns next to me and it was like, anybody comes through this house, I'm going to let them have it. So nothing like that happened at all. And keep going on. Just things would happen in this house. You would like see shadowy figures in this house. Humming of my wife's syllables for her name. Her name is Jessica, and it hummed the syllables of her name, and that really freaked us out. We would have the fire alarms going off. The one thing that really bothered me, it sounded like someone was breaking into our house and running up and down the steps from the basement. And I even got to the point to where I flung the door open. I heard it go all the way up to the top step, flung the door open, finger on the trigger, nothing there. So as all that stuff's going on, and this is going to sound crazy, and I know how this sounds, but this is everything that's going to lead up to where I'm going to entertain the idea. I go outside to smoke a cigarette one night, and I feel my whole body vibrating, and I could hear, like, you ever, like with your mouth closed and you hum like
Hmm.
very loud, and you know how it vibrates your ears and you could feel it. This was like 10 times the amount of that. I my wife's about to come outside. I said, hey, is there an airport close by? She's like, no, I don't think so. There is no airport close by. I was like, she's like, why? I was like, because I hear this loud vibrating sound like humming, and my whole body is humming to this sound. She comes outside, lights up a cigarette, and no longer after she's outside, we look up. I kid you not, it's the classic saucer shape. And it was still high up over the trees, everything like that. But the sound stopped. And this thing just not moving the tops of the trees, nothing, just going by. And I look at her because I thought I was going crazy. I said, hey, do you see that? She's like, I'm looking right at it. I was like, okay, we are actually seeing something. So, and I further talk about that more on my first episode on our podcast and everything. And this in your show is more Sasquatch related. I'm trying to get to that point. So we would see orbs outside in the woods and everything else like that. And like again, like how I said, I don't want any of that associated with these creatures either, because I think it's their own separate thing. I was sitting there inside the house one day, and this is after everything's going on. I was like, okay, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen back here in the woods we live in. So, what do you think I do? I go outside, like how I see on those shows. I go outside, I start knocking on wood, things like that, doing the whoops, calls as best as I could, probably sounded ridiculous as I'm doing it. And I would do it for quite some time. And as we were going on and on and on, I occasionally would hear a wood knock. I was like, okay, but I'm one of those people, I have to see it to believe it. So occasionally I would hear a wood knock in a response or something like that. Uh, there was another night, our house got smacked so hard that it shook the whole thing. But still, I'm not believing into it because I still haven't seen anything or anything like that. Another night, I did hear what sounded like the samurai chatter. And you would hear like one like doing that gibberish talk, and then you would hear an answer to it as well. And they were close by each other. And I told my wife, I was like, wow, this is the funniest thing what I'm hearing outside. I was like, you got to come hear this. She's like, what is it? I was like, it sounds like someone talking and responses, but you can't make out what they're saying. So, just go about my day, everything, or my night, my bad. Shut the door, everything. There was goes further on. There was another night. This is the one I was talking to you about the other night. We had this spot where I would go take vegetables, fruits, and even leftovers from dinner. I would just go toss it out, in this fire shed in the yard. And, for deer and you would always see deer walking through our yard, big bucks, big does, everything. I was like, okay, I'll just toss it out here. They'll eat it. Whatever animals are around, they'll eat this stuff. I come outside in the house that we are at. I do got to mention this. It's like our deck was probably about 15 to 20 feet off the ground. So we're standing higher up, and we could look down onto everything. So I walk outside the door one night, and I don't know why, I just look to my right towards where I throw out the food, towards the shed. I see these two huge eyes, about like that around. They're all lit up green, but it's just off into where I can't see, where it's dark, but just the light coming from the house is lighting its eyes up. And when I see the eyes, it just starts raising off the ground. It just wouldn't stop coming up higher and higher and higher and higher. I'm like, what the hell is this? I keep a flashlight probably about 4 feet inside the door where we had a little like a desk area where we had the computer at. I would keep a flashlight there. So After it raised up and it finally stopped, I ran inside, but right before I ran inside, I watched it as it was walking away. Its eyes were fixated on me. So I run inside, grab the flashlight, I flip it on, when I came back out. And I mean, it was just like that. It wasn't long at all. It was run right in, run right back out. It was gone. I couldn't see it. I don't know where it went. And the bearskin trail ran through our backyard. And this is where people could walk if they want to, or during the wintertime, ride snowmobiles and stuff like that. Down the other side of it kind of went like this into it, like really steep. Like if you were walking down it, you would kind of like do it slowly, or you would slide down the whole thing. So I kind of figured it went up over that, over the bearskin trail down that. I chalked it up to being a moose. I still couldn't see it or anything. And you would hear reports of moose in the area. So, but we just don't have them like a lot of places, like how they have in Maine. How they're just walking down the road, clearly visible. It's not like that up here. They have them in areas, just not all bunched together where people can see them all the time. So that's what I chalked it up. Our landlords, it was getting towards the end of our lease, and our landlord was like, I'm not going to resign the lease. I'm going to sell the house. And I was just fine with that. I didn't want to be in that house anymore. It really freaked me out. Just how bad, like just everything that was going on. Even our kids were scared. Both kids, they would wake up in the middle of the night, come running towards us, everything else. They would think something was in the closet banging around. And I would never doubt anything my wife or the kids would tell us, because I was experiencing it too. I was just so freaked out. I didn't want to live there anymore. I was like, no, that's cool. So we move in with my in-laws, my father-in-law. We move in there, and this area is called Lac de Flambeau, where you have to drive. That's the Indian reservation. It's a Ojibwe reservation. And you would have to drive through it on this road and enter the reservation, but it was still considered Minocqua, where we lived at. And if anybody has ever heard of it, it's they renamed it. It used to be called Squaw Lake, but they had to rename it because it's a derogatory term they used back in the logging days, what they would name the Native American women.
Right.
So they changed it to Amber Lake now, but it was named Squaw Lake. This house, beautiful house on 5 acres of land, had a creek that came through the side of the house, through the backyard, that leads out to the lake. I would go out there. I would still do the wood knocks, everything like that. I was still like, okay, I was giving it time. And this is months I've been doing this. But, at the old house leading into this new house, what I mean by months, I would still go out there and knock on wood, bang on trees with it, do the whoops, things like that. Our trash, it was probably about 50 to 75 yards up the driveway where we'd have to bring our trash can, and we'd bring it out there at night. Every once in a while, it would be knocked over, trash ripped out, and you would know that's a bear because they would drag it off and just leave trash everywhere. Raccoons would get into it. But me and the father-in-law, we would start putting bungee cords around. And I'm just not talking about one or two. I'm talking about like 8 to 10 bungee cords. So the lid couldn't get open. And when we leave in the morning, we would just unbungee it for the trash, the garbage guys. I would go out there and help pick it up, do it as a favor for my father-in-law, and help out as much as I can while they're letting us look for another place to live and staying at their home. I would go out there, and there would be the trash bag would be on the ground. All the bungee cords, nobody, me or my father-in-law, we didn't unhook them. They would all be unhooked, the trash bag on the ground, and it would be open. This thing wouldn't even be tore up, and I would just be standing there scratching my head, be like, okay, this isn't a bear, anything like that, no animal. And where we lived at, it's like so out in the country, there are no homeless people whatsoever. You know, we're the farthest thing from like a city limit. So I'd just be scratching my head, be like, what could do this? You know, you would figure a bear would rip it open, like how I said. So I would pick up a few of the things because it would just be picked through at that time. And I put it back in, let the garbage guys take it away. So a little bit of time goes by. I'm still out there doing my whoops, knocking on wood. Me and my wife, we towards the back of the lake, the boathouse had one of those lights that would flip on. We just seen something just tearing ass across the backyard. And it was fast. It was like boom, 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 gone. And she goes, "You see that?" I was like, "Yeah, I seen something run real quick. I just couldn't see what it was." And I was like, "Okay, this is pretty cool." You know, like it just piqued my interest a little bit more. There was another night. I don't know how my wife don't remember this one. Um, it was really dark, you know, where we lived at, no lights whatsoever, you know, when you live out there in the country. And I mean, it's as dark as it could get. It's like if you close your eyes, that's how dark it is out looking out in some of these spots. But just where the light would end, she said, "Doesn't it look like a silhouette of somebody standing there in the middle of that trail leading towards the boathouse?" I said, "Yeah, I see what you're talking about." And it was pretty big. And I catch movement to my left, like something was peeking behind a tree. As soon as I start turning my head left, I got whistled at. And I didn't know about the whole thing of don't whistle in the woods at night, things like that. I never heard of that lore before because I'm still fresh into the subject. I mimicked the whistle back. It did it again. And I whistled back, and my wife's like, "What are you doing? What are you whistling?" And I was like, "I don't know. Something's whistling at me out here." And I'm just whistling back at it. And this is the middle of night, you know, 11, 12 o'clock at night. No birds are out here whistling. And it did it one more time, and I whistled back. After the last whistle, we're standing there smoking a cigarette, and the creek, you would hear doosh, doosh, like steps, bipedal steps walking through this creek. And it's pretty deep. In this creek, we fish for bass, walleye, pike, you know, occasionally have a muskie coming up through there, things like that, catch crappie, bluegills. You know, it's deep enough where fish are at, and we fish all the time in this creek. And it's just you hear the walking through this, and every time you would hear like a foot in a lake come up, you would hear the water just dripping as the other foot would just go down. And I'm saying foot because it's bipedally walking, and it was just loud, just thud, thud. And we looked at each other. We got freaked out. We went inside. We started talking about, "Did you hear that? That sounded like something walking on two legs. That definitely wasn't no deer or anything like that. It definitely wasn't no bear. None of that." Not long after that, it was within the next couple weeks, is when I had this encounter. So we're laying in bed watching a movie, and we lived on the bottom part of the house towards like the basement area. But the house was kind of built into a hill like our last one we just moved from. And you could go out the sliding glass door and everything and just go right across the dirt driveway and down just this little part, and then you're getting to the creek. I'm hearing, being from Florida, I was a huge outdoors person. Always loved camping, fishing, everything else. I was a huge fisherman down there for salt water. So I know what bait sounds like getting torn up when fish are chasing it. It's in the middle of the night. It's around 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. I hear what sound like, you know, bait jumping in the water, getting busted, everything else like that. I look at my wife. I was like, "I'm gonna go check that out. I have never seen like bait fish getting tore up like this out there." And she was like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." I grab my flashlight and I go out the door. I go over the dirt driveway down the little slope part, and it's only like, you know, two feet down. It's just whoop, and you're down on flat land. As soon as I got to the flat land, I popped my flashlight on it, bam, there it was, right across the creek, right on the other side. And the best way I could describe it, like how when we talked on the phone the other night, um, think of a catcher in baseball, how they're down in that position. You know, that their butts kind of on the back, the heels, everything else. That's how this thing was sitting, all crouched down. And what I was hearing was its arm was reaching down by the water, and I could see its fingers going like that in the water. And that's what I was hearing. And my only guess was it was fishing. You know, it was trying to grab fish. So I got the light. I could see its full body, feet, legs, arms, face, full body of this thing. Only thing I could not see were the ears. And I'm guessing the hair was covering that. But I wish I would have sent you the photo. It looked more like relic hominid, like more human in the face to me than what people describe as it looks like a gorilla or an ape. This thing looked more like caveman style, you know? And it was a male. I did not see any female anatomy, like breasts coming off, you know, off its chest or anything like that. But it was well built, you know. It couldn't have been, it wasn't one of those big ones, and it wasn't that one that was whistling at me or walked through the creek. This one was a lot smaller. I would say it couldn't have been any taller than like 6'5". I'm around 6 foot. You know, I would give it 5 more inches taller than me. So I'm thinking this is probably like a teenager, if anything, you know? Its eyebrows were more protruded. Its head went back like a slope, and it had a big forehead, and that's where the hair started, was back here. It had no bridge of the nose. Its nostrils were big, though. It was big and round. And the mouth, I could only describe it like how I said to you the other night, was like a cup. You know, the top lip was a little bit longer, because when I had my light on it, and when it turned to look at me, it turned its whole chest. It didn't move its neck. That was another thing. It didn't look like it had a neck. Its whole head, shoulders, everything turned and went like that towards me. And as it did that, its top lip flipped back to its nostrils. And it was showing me its teeth. And they looked like big white chiclets, like that gum. And so that was pretty, like, I was standing there, I was shaking. Like, I couldn't believe what I was actually seeing. Like, I damn near pissed my pants. I was standing there shaking that much. I was going through all the motions in my head. Okay, we know this isn't a bear. We know this isn't a deer. We know this ain't coyote, wolf, whatever other creatures we have up here. Like, holy shit, these things are actually real. Sorry about my language. These
No, it's all
things,
right.
yeah, these things are actually real. They do exist. And I'm just sitting there, like, still utter amazement. I could see its skin and everything else. Like, its face, the hair was all black. There was, like, on its arm, the hair would be longer in some parts and then matted in others. But it wasn't, you know how like a black bear looks, where everybody will say it's fur? This had hair, you know, about like 6 inches in length. It would droop down to, but its skin was like this ashy gray color, like a darker gray color. Its face, it kind of almost like looks like it has kind of a leathery texture of just getting beat down in the sun and the weather elements and everything. I mean, this thing was god awful ugly. Only a mother could love this thing's face. It was just really weird looking, really ugly, and I think that's kind of why it was really freaking me out what I was actually looking at, and it just was like, wow. No longer after it flipped its top lip and showed me its teeth, it was like boom. This thing was back in the reeds and cattails, and I'm still standing there with my light on, and I would flick it off, and I would hear step, step, and I would flick it on where I thought it would be at, but I couldn't see it anymore. And every time I flick it off, it would start stepping more. And what this thing was doing was actually circling around to my right. And I finally snapped out of that that daze I was in of shaking and everything, I was realizing it was coming around to the right side of me. So I turn around, I run right back in through the door. I'm throwing everything in front of this door. I'm trying to cover it up because I'm really freaked out. I told my wife, if something comes through this door, bashes through it, I was like, you run upstairs, you grab your dad, you tell him to come down with his guns and just start firing. And she's like, why, what's going on? And I couldn't really say like the words that coming out of my mouth. I was just really freaked out, and I'm just trying to cover up the door area and as much as possible and just throw as many obstacles as I can in front of this sliding glass door because I was just that freaked out. I didn't really sleep. I just kind of like watched that area just to see if something was going to bust through that door that night. I actually felt really terrible because we moved not long after that. I felt really terrible because I felt like I called these things in to where my father-in-law and his girlfriend lived at the time. And I was like, oh no, because I moved up here to Michigan after that, live up here in Bessemer, Michigan, and Go Gibbon County. And we're kind of right on the border of, Wisconsin and Michigan state line. And it really screwed with me on that one because I just thought, what if something happened to my father, my in-laws? Like, wow, I I probably, if they got attacked, it would have been all my fault, and that's how I kind of kept thinking about it. So it really screwed with me on that part. But then when I started telling people, I started hearing the same ridicule that I would give out to others. And people laugh at me, make fun of me. I had family members that laughed at the idea of it. One thing that really bothers me is when people are like, oh, what are you drinking? Or, what are you smoking? It's like, what are you talking about? Like, nothing. Because if that's the case, just people will be seeing these things all around clubs and bars and things like that throughout the whole United States. So I hate hearing that, oh, what are you drinking and smoking? It would really irritate me. It actually sent me into a really bad funk and depression, just all the ridicule I would hear. Yeah, you were about to say something?
Oh no, no, no. I was listening. I'm
Oh,
agreeing with you because I think everybody that falls into this rabbit hole runs through that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
The ridicule and stuff like that. We even know people that's made it a career. So,
Yeah, so that's kind of why I started apologizing to people, but it took me a while to get to that point. I did go down that rabbit's hole of, okay, what did I see? I want to know more about it. So I would just be so fixated on it, just everything I could look up. I would just listen to shows, and one of my first shows I ever listened to was Brett and Salwin Mysteries. And I started listening to his shows. And one of these guys, it was in a show about North Carolina, how it was coming to his house. And he mimicked the whistle I heard. And boy, did my hair stand up on my arm. It'll still do it to this day if I go listen to that episode, just because how he did it. It was the same exact whistle I hear. And it gives me chills every time I hear it. On that show. From that show, I found Sasquatch Chronicles, and so on. You know, um, my wife, as we moved up here into Michigan, she goes, "Okay, why don't you get out during the wintertime? You're in the military, you love firearms, you love shooting. Why don't you pick up hunting?" So I was like, well, you're right. I should. Um, there's this place called the Ottawa National Forest up here, about 15 minutes from my house where I live at. um, Me and my father-in-law, let me take a sip of my drink real quick. Me and my father-in-law found this place. He's like, wow, this looks like it'd be really good to grouse hunt and everything, but it'd be even more awesome to hunt deer out here. I mean, just we were walking all around. I was like, and it opens up into this power line. And I was like, okay, this is where I'm going to hunt. So I buy those little pop-up blinds and things like that. Set it up. And right on the first day of deer season as it opened, I had my whole blind tore up and just thrown across the trail. And I just figured, okay, this is just somebody, they don't like that I found this spot. They obviously hunt out here. So I would just set it back up and everything. And then I eventually moved on this other side of this foothill, more closer to the power line, because things like that kept happening. I was like, screw it. Obviously I really made somebody mad. And I just didn't feel like being bothered because I'm trying to get into hunting, learn how to do it, self-taught, everything. I set my blind up on this other area. Every so often, it's still not clicking in my head after I had an encounter about things I would be hearing out there. I would hear what it sounded like, someone knocking with a hammer or beating with a hammer or something like that, or taking two rocks, clack, 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 or even the wood knocks. And I'm like, why would anybody be out here making noise? And there's no houses around. This is by a national forest. In November, it's cold as shit outside up here by then. Um, it would just have me wondering. Every so often, I would hear things hit my blind. It sounded like little rocks being thrown at it. And I would just chalk it up. Oh, maybe I'm underneath a tree and, I'm getting some snow dripping off, but there was no snow above me. There was sometimes no snow on the ground at that time. It's a hit and miss still before it really drops snow on you by this time. There was another time I was just sitting there and I got this bad, overwhelming feeling of don't look out to your right. And I actually took my head and I just put it down on my lap. And I don't know why I was just so scared. And I just stayed like that for 10, 15 minutes. And I was like, okay, I'm leaving. I got to get out of here. There would be other times that I would start walking out to this place, pitch dark. Yeah, I used to be a hunter. You want to get out there early and let things settle down. I would start walking on the trail. And this is why I always tell people, listen to your gut instinct. It would just be this overwhelming feeling of just something watching me and my stomach turning, just saying, don't walk any further. I would just stop, turn around, walk back to my car. There was other times I heard that blood curdling scream out there. So this place really started screwing with me. And this is how I ended up meeting Todd. My wife was getting her hair done, and this lady knew Todd. And so my wife's going about how I had an encounter. She knew it was bugging me. I'd just be really depressed in a funk. And she goes, well, I know somebody who's really into this subject. She goes, here, let me, give you his business card. So she brought it home. I was still even nervous about calling him because it took me a month before I finally did call him. Because what I've been hearing, people making fun of me. I didn't think he would take me seriously, things like that. She was like, and she would just occasionally mention it. Why don't you give him a call? He's a Navy veteran, just like you. And finally, after a month, I did. I finally called him up. He came over. He picked me up. He starts talking to me. I was still hesitant about talking to him about it. He was like, why don't you take me out to where you're having these experiences at? I was like, okay, because I did have a guy out there, and this was through a 2-year span. It just wasn't 1 year. This guy got so freaked out because he had this big rock thrown and it went over his head and landed by him. And I shouldn't have done it. I actually laughed at him. I don't know why I laughed at him, and I shouldn't have. And he was really freaked out. He was pale white. He goes, I want to leave. I want to get out of here. I never want to come back here. I was like, what's going on, man? I was like, we still have plenty of daylight left to hunt. And he goes, I just had this, a rock about the size of a basketball come over my head and land next to me. It almost hit me. It almost took me out. And he goes, I ran back to my car. And that's when he was calling me. He was blowing my phone up. Get back here now. We got to leave. Let's go. I want to get out of here. And of course, I did bring everything with me. And I said, well, why don't you show me where this happened at? And he didn't want to get out of his vehicle to come walk with me. He goes, walk up this trail. Um, you'll see my footsteps because there was a little bit of snow on the ground where I could tell where he walked at and where he was at. He goes, you know where I was sitting at? He goes, and you'll see the rock. And sure as shit, I went up there and there it was. It was a big basketball sized rock laid right there on the ground that was never there before. And you could see how it landed and everything, like it was thrown. And I was like, whoa, he wasn't lying. And I get back to the car. He never went back out there. He refused to. I think he quit hunting that day, actually. I would still have things happen to me out there, like little things, the screaming, the knocking, things like that, just those overwhelming feelings. And that's when, when Todd did come, he goes, look, it doesn't matter how crazy it sounds. Just tell me. And finally, I opened up to him. And I was like, just drive down here, take a left down this road when we get past Wakefield, by the Ottawa National Forest called the Great Lakes Road, and drive down the street about a half a mile and we'll get there. And I show him where the rock was, everything. And I also take them over to this other place, and I learned to stay away from this area because whenever you would get by this area, it felt like somebody was watching you or eyes were watching you, and you would get that really bad feeling. Stuck in the ground like an X shape were these two big trees that were just stuck in an X in the ground, and next to it were four smaller trees that were bent over from the top, touching the ground, like, you get what I'm saying? And they were twisted though. And that wasn't, you could tell when snow falls onto smaller trees and it'll bend them over, you could tell. But when these trees actually have twist in them, it's like you could tell something's grabbing and twisting. And there was four of them lined up next to this X mark. He actually started hunting by that other guy started hunting by that area. He would never get anything on camera. It was driving him wild. You would actually see, like, it looked like sticks were being waved in front of his camera, setting it off, but you would never catch anything on there. So it really messed with them. And when I would he'd be like, come over here, I want you to look at this. I went over there and he's like, doesn't it look like sticks are being thrown in front of my camera, setting them off? I'm like, yeah, it really does. And that's when I found the X mark. So I took Todd to this area. He took pictures, everything else, took him to see where the rock was thrown. He goes, man, I believe you. You probably do have things out here really messing with you. I was like, yeah, I won't come by this area anymore. Whenever you come by here, it's just a bad feeling all over the place. Todd went out there other times and he's taken other people out there with them to where these people didn't feel good and they went back to the car. It was a pretty messed up area, and hopefully you get to interview Todd in the future. He'll tell you about it as well when he took people out there. He'll describe how messed up this area was and the feelings you would get. Because of him, I didn't want to go back out there in the woods, but he talked me back into it, and he would just say, like, announce yourself, make your presence known as you start walking in here. Just say, hey, I'm here. As crazy as it sounds, hey, I'm here. I'm just here to hunt, and I'll leave you alone. And I actually started doing it. I don't know if it made me feel better doing it like that, or it gave me a little bit more confidence, but I would. This is the same area where I heard like that Ohio howl. And to me, what it sounds like, when a fire truck just starts going off, like how it starts off low and then gets real high for a long time, and then it fades back down like, whoa. You get what I'm saying with the sound the fire truck makes? That's
Absolutely.
what it sounds like to me. And I mean, this thing set all the wolves off in the area because we got, a wolf population up here that's getting out of hand. I was halfway to my blind from my vehicle, halfway down the trail, and I don't know why I was more closer to my pop-up blind. I took off running towards it. I said, "Screw this!" I ran towards that blind, and I don't know why that little, tent-like blind made me feel safe. Like nothing could get me in there, and
I know what you're
I
talking
yeah, just for some reason you feel like you're safer in that area. That's what I did. I hauled ass, and I got to it, and I sat in there, and I was like, "What the hell?" I was like, "No way did I just hear that?" And that was kind of like my last year hunting out there. Now I hunt on private property, and so far nothing has happened there whatsoever, and I don't get any bad feelings at this new place I'm at. My buddy owns around 33 acres or something like that, 31, 33 acres, and he lets me hunt out there. But I feel a lot better getting away from this other area where I took Todd out to. And that's kind of the end of my whole little experiences and stuff like that. That area, I do have a couple other ones to where this, I lived out by this ski resort. It's called Powderhorn, and you're back there in the country, and mostly people just come there to visit, not so much they live out there. You do have people that do live like how we did. Todd has had experiences out there. This is where him and his brother got screamed at real close, and him and his brother took off to their car. I mean, this thing just
Yeah, don't tell me
screamed
too
so
much about
loud.
Todd because we're planning
Yeah,
on
I will.
having him on as soon as his health gets better.
But before he even told me about what happened to him, um, it was probably about 2 o'clock in the morning. Me and my wife were binge watching movies. We were like, okay, we're pretty tired. Let's just go have one last smoke before we go to bed. We walk outside and we light for cigarettes. We're just talking. I hear a loud branch break off a tree. And we both look up across the street. There's no street lights on the street or anything like that. The only light you'll get is off your house. Couldn't see anything, so I don't know why I did it. I have this thing about whistling at night in the woods, and I really need to stop it because it's going to get me in trouble sooner or later. I whistled at it. All you hear is snap, snap, and my wife looks at me. I was like, "Oh wow!" And I was like, I whistled again, snap, snap, and that's when she was like, "Okay, Adam, you need to quit. Let's go inside right now." And I kind of didn't want to because I had a feeling what was across the street. I'm thinking we interrupted it. It was probably passing through the area at that time. I mean, because what else is going to be out there just breaking branches like that? And they sounded like fresh branches too. I mean, you would hear the crack and you would feel it. Um, there was one more night that we heard this thing just yell, and this is coming back towards Lake Superior's right up the street, like 10 minutes down the road. It came from that area. You heard from a different area something yell back at it, and it's the coyotes and everything are going off, but these things are yelling over the coyotes, all of them. And it was just so loud. My wife goes, "I have never heard that sound before in my life. What is it?" I said, "That those are Bigfoot right there." I was like, "That's exactly what they sound like." From this is when I'm big into it. This is after I met Todd, and that's where I started telling Todd about it, and that's when he started bringing up his encounter back there, what happened to him and his brother. And I was like, "Holy shit!" He took me out to the area and everything, and it's there's so much woods and forest around us up here. Like my town only has one stoplight in it. That's all. Just one stoplight. And that's how small of a town we live in. Maybe 1,000 people at the most. So, I mean, it's very rural where we live at. We're just surrounded by tons of woods and forests. Like how I even told you, from my house, you could walk to the end of the block and you'll start going into like the farmlands and the woods. And like my deer camp is actually like where I hunt. My buddy's deer camp, I mean, is only 3.5 miles right up the road. So that we're just surrounded by tons of woods and forests up here. But it's pretty much all the experiences and things I had. Me and Todd do go out to the woods, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can off him because he's like 20 years older than me, and he's been dealing with these things from a young age. And him and his brother have been all around the United States, just going around doing research. So I try to pick up as much as possible off him. So that's where
Yeah,
I'm
it's
at
always good.
now.
Yeah, it's always good if you have somebody, especially that close to you, that you can get with on a regular basis that has some experience and stuff like that. Me being independent, a lot of times I'll call other people, and ask them questions or throw something at them or send them pictures to get their viewpoint, stuff like that. It's good to have somebody that close that you can just sit down with and say, hey, what do you think, and actually go out with you if the case presents itself.
Yeah, it's I'm very grateful to have him as a friend, because he kind of pulled me up out of that funky depression I was in after I had the encounter and started experiencing these things and almost gave up hunting because of it. But he talked me out of it and just, you know, told me I had nothing to worry about.
Right.
And that's kind of what we were talking about. It's like you don't hear that many attack stories. You do hear ones here or there, or some butt puckering situations. But I one thing I'll never do is I'll never point my gun. I'm sorry about that, son. The sun's going
Yeah.
down in the background. One thing I would never do is point my weapon at them. For some reason, they do know what a firearm is. And every time we do go out in the woods, I do carry one. I'll carry that in the bear spray as well,
Right.
so, but
Yeah, I've thought about adding bear spray to my arsenal since state of Florida has, as far as the bear population has really skyrocketed. It's to the point now that they're actually looking at having a bear season again. And, we went from rarely, let's put it this way. I'm born and raised here and I'm 56 and never I saw one bear my entire life, and that was about 15 years ago. One. And now, just this year, I've seen six or seven, just in one
mm,
year.
wow. Yeah, we got them all over the place up here. I mean, I'll just yell at them real quick. And usually they'll just scamper off and just run off. But if you get a mom and cubs around, that's where I don't like to mess around because that's when she will defend those young ones. And those young
Yeah.
ones, they'll run up to you too, just not
Oh yeah,
thinking about it, will run
I
your
got a guy.
direction.
Yeah, I got a guy that I've known since the fourth grade, and after high school, he became a park ranger here at the state park. He's been there ever since. And he was telling me that one morning he was getting out of shape, putting on weight, getting up in his 50s, so he's putting on weight and everything. So he's starting to exercise, and he was taking one of the trails, which is this big loop through the woods, just one big round circle. Um, and as he was walking, on the same trail. So he stopped, tried to make himself look large, raising his hands and looking all big and stuff. And the thing just looked at him and continued to walk at him. So he started to walk backwards, and then he turned to look behind him, and there was another bear coming from behind him. So he had
Oh
one. He
man.
said he had one in front of him about 30, 40 yards, and one behind him about 30, 40 yards. So he literally got on his cell phone, called the shack where the other, the people that were on duty, because he's off that day. He was just out there exercising, and telling them, guys, I'm I'm trapped. I've got a bear in front of me and a bear behind me, and he's got nothing. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
they jumped on one of the side by sides that they use in the park, and it took him about 5 minutes. You know, he said the bears actually sat down, just sat down, staring at him, but he couldn't go forward and he couldn't go back. And then once he could hear the side by side coming, they both got up and just went into the woods. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I mean that's how bad it's getting that you're having encounters like that. You know what I mean? So I'm with you. I'm probably going to add bear spray at some point to my arsenal of stuff that I take in the woods. But I do always take a pistol. Always do.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily for a Sasquatch. It's for all the other things in the state of Florida that want to hurt me. And you know, I'm one of those ones. You know, I can believe that they know what a firearm is. They've been around long enough to recognize things and understand. You know what I mean? It only takes an infant one time to burn their hand on the stove and they don't touch it again. So I
Yeah.
think these things understand what a firearm is and what it's capable of doing. Um, it's probably passed down from generation to generation on what they are and what they do and stuff like that. Probably told that just humans are dangerous as it is. Um, but I don't believe they know I have one on me. See what I'm saying? Because I wear a chest pouch with a forward facing body cam, and it's
Oh yeah.
in the pouch. It's always zipped halfway so I can get my hand in there quick enough, but it's in the pouch the whole time. You know what I mean? So I don't think
Yeah.
they know it's there, but I feel better knowing it's there. Let's put it that way. You know, and you know, it's just one of the things I take out there. It's really the only thing I really take to defend myself. But like I said, my biggest fear is hogs. That's really the biggest thing because you know
Oh
that's the
yeah.
one thing I worry about.
No,
You know,
yeah, those things will tree you. I mean, you're going to want to get up and tree away from those.
yeah,
You
you
could
really
even put a couple rounds in them, and they'll still keep charging.
Yeah, you
So,
really do have to climb a tree. And at my age, I've lost a lot of weight. I was at 220. I'm down to 200 pounds now, but still getting my butt up in a tree is a very difficult task. Um, but fear will probably get me up there. Fear will probably get me up that tree. But yeah, you're not going to outrun a hog. And the worst thing about it is not only will they kill you, but they'll eat you. You know, and
yeah,
they'll they it'll be very difficult to find your remains later on because they will eat you. So, but
I would hate to go that way. I also think another reason how they know what the firearm is probably from observing hunters. So they know it makes a loud sound. They'll probably watch that deer drop. Okay, I heard the sound. I seen the deer just drop. So I think they associate that as well with them. So they
right,
do know. But I do advise people that we do speak with, and we said it on our show many times. Of look, just don't fire at one because it's not the one that you see you have to worry about. It's the one that's off in the bushes or behind you that you don't see is the one that you should worry about. So,
right.
um, yeah, I would definitely add the bear mace. That's probably what I would do first is make sure I'm not, the wind's not blowing at me. But if I did get bluff charged or something like that, and I do have another encounter, that's probably what I would take out because it's going to
Oh,
blind you.
oh yeah. I'm sure bear spray will work on a Sasquatch just as much as it work on anything else. It would definitely be an irritant, and at a best case scenario, at least it'll buy you some time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That you can get out of there and stuff like that. But it will be upset. It definitely will
yeah.
be upset. So I'd make haste and get out of the woods as quickly as possible. Let's go back to when you were at your in-laws when you had the face-to-face encounter with this thing. When you told your in-laws, what did your father-in-law have to say about it?
He laughed at me and said, "You probably seen a bear." That's exactly what he did. He goes, "Come on, we got this big," because they did see this big black bear walk up the driveway in the middle of the day too. And he's never seen one. He goes, "I've been out hunting in the woods all my life. I've never seen anything like that." And I was trying to plead to him, like, look, I didn't believe in these things either. I mean, why would I sit here and tell you how I was a skeptic? I didn't believe in these things, and now I'm telling you with a straight face. Look, I know what I saw. You know, I mean, you can't sit there when people have an encounter. You can't tell them what they didn't see with their own eyes. But he did. He said, you probably just seen a bear. I know what a bear looks like. A bear don't have feet and legs it could stand up on, and it don't have arms with digits on the hands that, you know, waving through the water. You know, and
Right.
you know, I know a bear looks like this thing. Like I
Right.
said, this thing looked more human, like more relic hominid, and that's what I actually think these things are. And
No,
everybody,
actually, no, I agree because I was an avid hunter. That's what I did. I was a deer hunter. Spent I spent the entire hunting season in the woods. I'd get off work, be out in the woods, go home, grab my gear, and be out there before as much time as I could before the sun went down. And that was every single day, and then of course all day on weekends and stuff like that. And it wasn't until after I had an experience that you look back and you look at the things that you had experienced in the woods prior to that opens your eyes that said, wow. Because like you said, when hunters say, well, I hunt all the time and I never see it. I was that guy that, I was out in the woods. But here's the deal. I wasn't looking for it. So
yeah,
if you're out there and you're completely focused on deer, that's what your mission is. That's what you're out there to do, is to dispatch a deer. So you're looking for rubs and scrapes and prints and all the things that tell you you're in a viable area to harvest a deer that year. So you're not focused on anything else. I'm not paying attention to squirrels. I'm not paying attention to raccoons. I'm not paying attention to anything. I'm just focused on deer activity. So a hunter to tell me that, well, I go out there all the time, I've never seen anything. Well, because you're not looking. See what I'm saying? It's not looking.
yeah,
And once once you have an experience, it opens a veil. You know what I mean? So you
hmm,
see so much more now. You're so uh, keen to what's going on around you more than you were when you're a deer hunter. See what I'm saying? Um,
yeah,
when I go out there, I usually, and I tell this to people, is that the first hour that I'm in the woods, I kind of disregard a lot of things the first hour, because you go out there, you already have expectations and stuff like that, but you need an hour to settle down, and for your senses to connect with the environment. So you're seeing things differently. You're being able to see things a little bit clearer. Your smell is different. Your hearing is different. It takes about an hour to get all the congestion out of your head from living in the city, or even my drive. When I'm driving to the area I'm going to research, I got the radio going, and I'm riding on a highway. There's other vehicles. I have to get all of that out of my system. So the first hour that I'm hiking, and I'm looking and I'm checking things out, but it's really my body is adjusting to the environment I'm in now. See what I'm saying?
yeah,
It's like when you go to work. Your the way you see and act and feel at home is different when you get at work. See what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I just want to adapt to the environment that I'm in at that time. And if everybody takes that moment and takes that, a lot of times before I even go in, I'll sit um, on by the hood of my car and just relax for about 30 minutes before I start hiking in and start taking it all in and forming a game plan on what my goal is today. Where do I want to go today? And what do I want to do? You know what I mean? I always set a goal when I go out there. Like this Saturday, hopefully tomorrow, if the weather holds up, my goal is to find a new location and set up my camera, um, and leave it out there for a week, and then go back next week, pick it up, and hopefully see what I got.
yeah. You're exactly right when you were talking about, like, when you are going out in the woods, you are looking for deer and stuff like that. For instance, earlier, that's what I was doing today. I was checking my trail cams. I'm getting ready, going out by the food plots, checking them. And that's what I'm doing. I'm like watching on the ground, seeing if I can't, see new game trails, new footprints, things like that. Even when I'm catching the deer or bears or whatever else I got on camera. I got a couple bears on camera today. It was pretty cool.
Nice.
I start looking for that areas. Okay, they're using this trail. I'm looking for their prints, and I'm not. That's what I'm focused on. I'm not looking
Right.
for a Bigfoot or things like that. And even if I did hear a tree knock, I'm just gonna kind of disregard it at first. But if I start hearing them and getting feelings, then I'm gonna say, okay, something's not right now. And since I did go down that rabbit's hole of what to look for, what to listen for, or things Todd has taught me while we're out there, doing our little bit of research, things like that. I am more in tune with that now. But at
Right.
first, until I heard other people's encounters and things that happened to them, I probably wouldn't even notice it.
Yep.
Or even before I had my encounter, I would have never noticed any of that.
Yep.
And just, oh, it's just
Yeah.
the woods.
Yep. It was told to me one time that you're looking for deer until you see a snake. Now you're looking
Yeah.
for snakes.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and that's how it is. When I had my very first encounter, that was my what I was doing in the woods was scouting an area to deer hunt. And after that encounter, I never deer hunted again. I've never to this day went back to hunting at all. And mostly because I was just so freaked out. I was so scared for so long that I literally thought never saw myself in the woods again ever. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And but that changed, and I did start going out, but not hunting. But it was hiking and looking and trying to figure things out. So and then that just grew. I got into that rabbit hole, and look where I'm at now. So
Oh,
so
yeah.
now you've teamed up with Todd, and now you guys have a podcast. It's on
Yep.
Spotify, and I'll put that banner up there so people can see that. And did he have that before, or is that just something you guys came together and said, "Hey, let's do this thing"?
We were actually out bird hunting one day. And whenever me and Todd get together, we just talk about these subjects. I mean, we talk about all the subjects. We talk about cryptids. We talk about paranormal. We talk about UFOs, ETs, all that government programs. Like we get into all those things. But we were out bird hunting. We were out trying to hunt rough grouse, and so we were walking down this trail. We already got one bird, and we just started messing with the idea of it. We were like, if we could actually help somebody out, if they want to call in, we could provide some kind of help. Let's do this. And so that's what why we started it, was to provide help or give people answers. We actually had this one interview with this he was younger. He was 17 at the time, and him and his family it was in northern Florida. I'm not going to give away. I know where he was living at, him and his family, but I'm not going to say the area. Just say it's North Florida, by the coast, as far as north as you could go, up by that area. um they were getting their house messed with, everything. His little brother would shoot rabbits and things like that and throw these carcasses out, and they were basically feeding the things. um he described all the activity that was going on, so we started
So if you
giving them like,
just come back in.
oh, did you lose me for a second? You there? Yeah, you kind of stop. I'll just keep going. um we told them, look, to start throwing up some lights on the house, put up trail cameras, do this, do that. Bring your garbage cans inside. Quit, if you are going to shoot a rabbit, just throw it further off away from your house, things like that. And I did talk to them. things did get better after that. So we were actually happy that we were able to provide somebody some help. So, and that was the whole reason why we started it. And I enjoy talking to everybody. Loved having you on the channel. When you told me about what happened to you, when the reason why you quit hunting, that was a pretty hair raising experience that you're going through. But I love talking to other people on our show because it's almost like kind of like a therapy thing, something you guys got in common, a common bond, and you're able to
Right.
talk to each other about it and get it off your chest. And you kind of do feel better after you speak to each other about these kinds of things. So that's how it all started. Was we were out bird hunting and just came up with the idea.
Well, that's a good deal, and if anybody's interested and you have Spotify, just go to Spotify podcast and look up Entering the Unknown, and it's pretty good shows on there. And and just recently you had Marie Demont, which I know
Mm.
very, very well. She's here in Florida, and we've spent a lot of time together. We've camped together and researched together, and she's a really great person. And so it's a good show. It's one of those ones where you can. It's not like this. You can actually listen to that in your car while you're driving down the road. You know what I mean? I would not
Yeah.
I would not want anybody to watch my show while you're driving down the car, driving in the car. So
Yeah, well, we're on yes, like you said, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music. We're all over the podcasting platforms. So I just found out a few others that we were just on. So if you look it up, that's where we're on. We talk about all kinds of subjects. We that was another thing. I love the cryptid. I love Bigfoot shows. I love them to death because I can relate to them after having an experience. We just wanted to do something out of the norm, though, and just like here, let's just open up our a broader horizons to different
right,
subjects. But all the interviews that we do are with people like with Bigfoot or Sasquatch, however you refer to them. Those are our
yeah.
interviews are with the cryptids. And
You said
there
you,
are,
you
huh?
said doo doo. Yeah. You said doo doo.
Oh, do, yeah. I get, I get what you're saying there. um,
The
yeah,
kids coming out of me.
Marie was a good guest to have on. We're gonna have her on more in the future because she, before she got into the whole Bigfoot thing, there was other subjects that she was studying, and I was like, oh wow, I'd like to pick her brain more about, the paranormal, UFOs, things like that. So
Right.
I can't wait to we have her back on again.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. She's a good person. She's been on this show, and I knew when me and Johnny started the show at some point. We knew we were going to have Marie on. A lot of people that we're close to, a lot of people that we respect in the field, we've had on the show, and different people I've met that I just personally like. And so when we started, we got those people on right away, and we had some great shows. There's some great people out there, and I could recommend you some people if you want to have them on your show, and just all around just good people, and that's what you want to surround yourself with is really good people.
Oh yeah, I definitely would like that if you could send over some recommendations, and I'll write to them and everything. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I'll talk to them first and say, hey, would you be interested in doing it? Then if they say yeah, I'll pass it on to you and stuff like that. Um, it's a different interview being on because it's not like this where you're seeing face to face and stuff like that. It's a different type of interview. But
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. You're sitting there on your phone talking to somebody, so it's pretty cool. um
What I like about this video interview is you could actually see somebody. So every once in a while, it's like we don't try to interrupt anybody. We try to let them talk, talk about their encounter, talk about their experiences. But after that, kind of like when you're asking a question, sometimes it might seem like
Yeah.
we're talking over somebody real quick, but we're not trying to. It's because we can't see you, and,
Right.
that's what I like about the video one.
Yeah. Podcasts are it's a discussion. It's people having a discussion on a subject that they're all really interested in, And I love the topic of Bigfoot. I enjoy it. I'm glad I'm doing it. I'm glad I'm involved, and I plan on doing it until I can't. So,
Yeah,
um,
there's
all right.
just some like cryptids I can't get into, um, like the Wendigo or something. We've looked into it. It's actually there's a Wendigo psychosis that actually you develop the taste for human flesh, like cannibalism and things like that. You hallucinate. I think a lot of people back in the day didn't realize mental illness, or even think about it when you were going across country and people are trying to strike gold and things like that. Well, maybe somebody put on a deer skull with antlers sticking out of it and tried dressing up and scaring people away, things like
Well,
that. Or
oh, absolutely. Especially back in Western days, let's say, for example, and gold miners and stuff like that. One of the number one metals that we used for almost everything was lead. Um, Cups that they drank water and beer out of a lot of times is lead based or something like that. Well, those things will affect your brain. You know what I mean? So I
Mhm.
think there was a lot of issues with people back then because they just didn't know. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And matter of fact, we still. Uh, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and we still had lead paint on walls. That didn't start to change until around the 80s when I realized that was bad. It wasn't until around the same time we found that asbestos was bad. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
here I am in the Navy with this. My ship was built in 1962. I'm sleeping in a rack with a steam line that's probably 2 foot across, going right down where I can't even roll over in bed because it's going right by my chest, and it's completely insulated in asbestos.
No,
So,
yeah.
but
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I was on that older ship with the Kitty Hawk.
mhm,
I
yeah,
think it came out in the 1950s. Kennedy christened it and everything. So,
wow. Well, good deal,
uh,
man. That was a
yeah, I believe.
great time. That was a awesome encounter. If anybody in the audience has any questions, ask them now, and put them in caps so I see them real quick, and I definitely will post them on there and give Adam an opportunity to answer it. So if you have anything, throw it out there. I know Mr. Duffy 81 has been very active in the chat room, and so if he has any questions, um, good to see Ohio Bigfoot researchers in here today. Good guys. Good to see a lot of people. We've got Jerry Anderson's in now. A lot of people in and out. You know, I didn't get to everybody because a lot of times I get enthralled into your story as well. You know what I mean? And it's just me tonight, so I'm running the board and I'm trying to listen to you and and try to interact with the chat room. And a lot of times I miss a lot of things, but that's because you come first. You're a priority. Everything else falls in line after that. So if anybody's got any questions, please ask away. Um, if not, we're going to move forward and stuff like that. So with you and Todd, what are your future goals? What do y'all plan on doing in the future? Either um, podcasting or and your research as far as getting out in the woods on this subject.
Oh, just yeah, continue on with the podcast. I love doing it. It's just a wonderful hobby, and I love looking up all these things. So I want to continue doing that. Um, I do want to, continue to do the research. I want to learn more. I
Yeah,
want to actually get a casted footprint. That is
yeah.
one thing that I really want. I think that'd be like the holy grail to me right there.
Yeah.
So
So Jerry asked a question. Ever try baiting the area where it was eating garbage and set up trail cameras?
That's I have not tried that. For some reason, and everybody will say this too, like when you set out trail cameras, like it's hard to catch these things. You know, they know what they are. For some I don't understand how they know what they are, but do they see like the little infrared flash or whatever like that before, as they're taking a picture? I can never get one of these things on a trail camera whatsoever. You
Well,
know,
here's the thing. Here's the thing. And I like addressing that one because I use trail cameras, and the way and Steve Coles brought this up as well. Um, it's not showing infrared constant. See what I'm saying? It's motion
yeah,
detected. So that infrared is not going to come on until it's ready to start video or take a picture. So I think it is absolutely feasible to trick these things into coming within range and getting it, because there have been trail cam photos, good or bad, there have been trail cam photos. So we just got to work at getting better. Um, and technology is getting better too, so that's going to help out. Jerry asked another question. Ever
yeah.
thought about scouting with drones? I use a
I,
drone.
I I like the
You know,
idea of that. You know, that is totally different idea, and one that you don't really hear about that much. I mean, besides like you, other people have used them. You know, I heard about it, but that you could probably scout out a lot of different area and just get up high. They're not going to really suspect something like that. But
well,
going
here's the
going back to
here's
the
here's the
uh,
issue with drones, because I use a drone. I have a drone, and matter of fact, I was flying it last week, I think it was, to check on my cameras, to check on my trail cameras. Instead of hiking all the way out there, I just flew the drone out there. Um, the problem with drones, and this is with thermal on a drone or not, is you still can't get past the tree coverage. Okay, the
like the
canopy is still thick.
canopy.
You still can't see past the canopy. So it's very, even with thermal, it's very, very, very difficult. You know what I mean? Um, so you have to fly in areas where you're hoping this thing will step out or cross a trail or go into a field. Or, I like to run it down this creek bed that I found. So I'll fly it because you can only fly so high legally. You can't go over 400 feet, I think it is. Um, which is high. You can't see the drone, and barely, if you have to really focus to even try to hear it. But I like to follow this creek bed because animals will come out and get something to drink or something like that. Especially here in Florida being so hot. So I use a drone, but there's no perfect tool in our tool bag. You know what I mean? They all have their pluses and they all have their minuses. You know what I mean? If you've got a certain character out there that swears up and down that if he ever gets a thermal drone, he's going to prove the existence of Bigfoot. Well, he's not the only one who's ever thought that, and there's a lot of people that do use thermal drones. So, and it still hasn't happened. Like I said, the canopy is still really, really thick from above. See what I'm saying? It's actually less thick at ground level because you can see through the forest, where on a drone, the trees branch outward. So it really does a lot of coverage. So a lot of times it's very difficult.
No, that's we got a lot of tree coverage around here. I'm not around that many open fields. But
Yeah.
also going back to the trail camera, another thing that you could hear them clicking when they're taking pictures. So I don't know if they had picked that up. Like how I even mentioned that one guy where he was not getting anything on his trail cam, he was just getting really mad. Is you would see like a stick going in front of it, and these things they are very smart. You know, they got like an intelligence level that's I think something more than what a chimpanzee and a gorilla is. So I do believe that they'll throw sticks out to see how far they could actually go with this thing flashing off, or just waving a stick in front of it just to, okay, let me avoid this. I they are very smart. But also, I wouldn't sit there and I wouldn't habituate them either. I don't believe
No.
in sitting there. Oh, I don't do the gifting. I definitely will not feed them. And if you ever do it at a house, and you actually do have them come into the house and you're constantly feeding them, gifting them, things like that. Well, what's going to happen when you put that house up for sale, or someone who was living there passes away and a new family does come in and move in? That's going to cause a problem for that new family moving in there, because they're going to say, hey, why am I not getting fed? Why am I not getting left gifts? Things like that. And that's when they do kind of like start smacking your house. They do start messing with
Yeah.
you a little bit more. And I've heard a
Well, yeah.
lot of stories like that.
Yeah, I'm not big on gifting or feeding, but it's not just necessarily Bigfoot. I don't do it for any animals. I don't want to invade their natural ability to search and hunt for food on their own. I don't want to. I don't want them to be relying on humans, especially me. But it's the same as bears. There's a neighborhood here that I drive through on my way to work, and I've seen bears there many times, and all the trash cans are dumped over, trash
Hmm.
scattered everywhere. Um, because technically, no, you're not doing it on purpose, but you're baiting them because you're putting
Yeah.
food and garbage and your last night's dinner, everything's in the trash, and it attracts these bears. Well, they're not going to go anywhere. They're going to stay reasonably close and always come and check the trash cans to see if they can grab a quick grub. And now you have a problem. That's why Florida just passed a new law that because before um, you could not shoot a bear, period. The only reason you could shoot a bear, but you still have to prove it, that you were in danger, that you were being
Yeah.
attacked and you had no choice. But you still have to prove that that was the case. Well, they changed it now that if a bear enters your property and is actually causing property damage, you can dispatch that bear. See what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but that's because we've gotten so many. We're just. I saw the biggest bear I've ever seen one day. It was huge. It was huge. It was the biggest black bear I've ever seen, even on television. And I'm like, this is Florida. Things are supposed to be smaller. It had to have been a male, an alpha male, and he was just massive. And it was a really weird thing. This is the thing is people don't understand when, especially when you get into the paranormal Bigfoot thing, because I'm not into anything paranormal with Bigfoot at all. I think there's
Oh no.
when we use the term supernatural, that means he's got super strength or super speed, super abilities, but it's all natural. Like Usain Bolt is supernatural speed, but it's natural. It's you know what I mean. It's supernatural
Yeah.
because he's super fast. Um, but I was watching this bear. This bear came out in front of my car. Then it was running alongside of me. Now he's running along a barbed wire fence, and I think it was 4 rows of barbed wire. And all of a sudden, he cut quickly into the woods. And I'm like, how did he go through that barbed wire fence so easily? You know what I mean? He did. It's like he didn't even flinch. He just boom. He was into the woods. He had to go through that barbed wire fence, and it didn't slow him down. It didn't pause him. Nothing. And he was huge, huge. And we're talking, what is it? Maybe a 8-inch gap between each barbed wire. eight
Yeah.
inches, and he went right through it like it was nothing. So crazy things happen that you can't explain. But if it was daytime, because this is 4 in the morning, if it was daytime, I probably would have seen how he did it. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
so crazy things do happen. Just because we can't explain it doesn't mean it's not explainable. Um, I'm a forensic guy. You know what I mean? And I look at things forensically and stuff like that. Would do me no good to walk over there during the day because I'm pretty sure I'll find hair in the fence and stuff because he squeezed through very quickly. Like he was accustomed to it. Let's put it that way. He knew what he was doing. You
He
know,
probably knew where to cut in at and everything.
yeah, because this is a very solid barbed wire fence. It's not an old fence or anything. It's not sagging in any way. It's a very very well put together solid fence. And I don't know what it is in other states, but in Florida, if it's I think three, anything more than 3 rows of barbed wire, You don't have to post no trespassing. It's automatically no trespassing just by how
Oh,
many. So we just use a rule of thumb is if it's barbed wired fence, you just don't go in. Period. You just don't go in.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't. I like how you brought. I don't get into the whole like woo side of it with the Bigfoot and stuff like that. I don't get in, and everybody's free to believe what you want to believe, with the
oh,
research that
absolutely.
you do and things. I'm not here to sit here and change your mind. I'm just saying this is my personal belief. I don't think they could just boom make a poor little pier go right through it. I don't get into the whole mind speak, but people do, and
That's
they
like
say it
me.
happens.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
just think
closed.
that's your conscience speaking to you. Why, you're
Right.
speaking to yourself. I think that's what's going on. Or when they say they can't see it, it must have just walked through this portal. No, they probably got down and did that weird spider, wow, that spider crawl they do. When they
Right.
get down on all fours, and then they could be as big as they are. They could be very quiet getting on out of there too.
Well, yeah,
You know.
and so can a bear. A bear is a very quiet creature when he wants to be. And I was camping one time, and a ranger came to my campsite and said, "Hey, just so you know, there's been a bear sighted in the area, so you want to, you know, be aware and stuff like that." Well, as we were talking, sure enough, we see the bear. So we decided, because his job is to scare the bear, make it not welcome, so it would go away. So he's clapping his hands and stuff, and I carry a whistle. So I'm walking parallel with the guy. I'm probably 30 yards away from him, and I'm blowing a whistle and clapping my hands, and we're trying to scare this bear off. Well, he'll say it's right in front of me and it's heading towards you. So I stop and I'm waiting, and I never heard this bear or saw this bear till he was right in front of me, and he popped his head up over a bush and looked at me, and then went back down and started going again. He walked from him to me, never heard him, never saw him. See what I'm saying? So I think,
Yeah.
and it was a bear. I mean, it was an adult bear. So um, I think they could be very quiet when they want to be. And there was a time I was in the woods up in Palm Beach County, and I had broken away from a group, and I was walking down this trail, and I had a parabolic on me. So I sat down at a base of a tree on this trail, and I started scanning the parabolic. And I got to this one spot, and I could literally hear bipedal walking. And it was like it was purposely gently walking, like very slow, like it was creeping. And I could hear it. I could literally hear the feet crunching the grass and foliage on the ground as it was walking. And it was very slow and methodical. And so I would turn the parabolic away from it and hear nothing, turn it back and I could hear it, turn it this way, nothing. So I was able to narrow down what direction it was coming from. But there was these huge palmettos between me and it. And so I'm sitting there listening to it, and I realized the guys didn't follow me. Nobody, I thought they were going to head up this trail. That's why I went ahead of them, but nobody was coming. And so when I turned my head to yell, "Hey, Mike, come here," it stopped, and I couldn't find it again. Whatever it was, it stopped walking, and I sat there for another 2 minutes until I got totally spooked. Like this thing knows I'm here. And the bad thing about parabolic is you don't have distance. You have a degree of direction, but you have no idea how far it is because you're hearing it so loud in your headphones, but you don't know how
Yeah.
far it is. It could have been 50 yards in front of me. It could have been 200 yards in front of me. See what I'm saying? But whatever it was, it stopped. See what I'm saying? And that's where it spooked me. I remember going back to the guys going, dude, I just got spooked. I just got bipedal walking over there. And you know what I mean? Um, so I think they could be quiet. They can, and then whatever it was, I think knew I was there from the beginning. And I think it was trying to creep closer to get a better look. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I think if I didn't get spooked and try to call somebody else to come over, um, I probably would have had a face to face with this thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot of people do have encounters like that. Like it doesn't even know you're there yet and kind of walks up on you. You know, I've heard a lot of people having encounters like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they want to have an encounter so bad that the pareidolia thing, it drives me nuts too.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Is Yeah,
It's really,
you people just start circling everywhere on trees and bushes, this, that, and the other. It's like, no, if you really want to have an encounter, you got to go off the beaten path. You know, you got to put the time in the woods too.
yeah,
You know,
it's a
or if
lot of
you,
fun.
yeah, I don't advise doing the calling and things like that. What I did, because you don't know what you're saying in their language either. I mean, you could be doing a mating call for your all you know, and here comes
Well,
a big old 9-foot monster thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna come creep up on some female Bigfoot," and all of a sudden they see you, and now he's mad. You know,
yeah,
so
exactly. We don't know what we're saying. We don't know what we're doing. It's the same with an X, for example. You know, I disregard X's. I have a very strict criteria on X's. Okay, but regardless of that, let's look at the X itself. What does it mean? We use this as a universal symbol for stop, but that may not mean that whatsoever to them. That's our
yeah,
definition of it. See what I'm saying? A prime example is a swastika. Nazis made it into their symbol and what it meant. But if you go back, that symbol is a very old symbol, goes all the way back to Egyptian time, and it meant something totally different. Totally
oh yeah,
different.
it was actually
You
a
know what I'm
symbol
saying?
of peace. Like,
Right.
you know, I think in Hinduism and stuff like that as well. We
Right.
were
Different cultures
so
have these same designs, they just mean something else. So we don't know what it means. We really don't know. We can uh, form theories, and it's good to create a theory and then work off that theory to prove the theory right or wrong. That's why we have them, and we should do that. Um, but we, in the end, we don't know. You see what I'm saying? And until we have a long term study of these creatures, kind of like Jane Goodall does with primates. Um,
yeah.
we're not going to have the answers. See what I'm saying? Even if we found a dead body of one of these things, it's still not going to answer all the questions. You have a body, you could tell by what it eats, or what it it's how it digests, and different things like that. How big is its brain, how smart it is. You can how look, you can dissect its eyes and give more information, but you don't know its characteristics. You don't know its behavior. You don't know its social structure. There's things you won't know, because those are things you need from a live specimen. And the only way to do that is a long-term study, especially of a group. You know what I mean? And that has not taken place yet. So, but that's where we're leading to. That's where we're heading towards, and trying to do that. But I'm not that guy. See what I'm saying? I do not want to get to know them that well. I want to observe at a distance for a very short period of time, and then go about my business. Because as soon as I can get, for my own personal sense, a good 10-second video of this thing in motion, I'm done. I'm done. Everybody asks me, "Hey, Rick, what's the end game for you? What will be the end game for you?" Well, other than health or work or something like that, the end game is when I finally get that video, that 10 seconds. I put it out there. I let everybody watch it, look at it, judge it, whatever they want to do. Then I'm going back to fishing. You know what I mean? So I've been doing this for a long time, and it's I'll move on to another subject or something like that. But that's my end game, and the way it stands right now, it's a very difficult thing. I always joke and say Sasquatch is a very, very selfish creature, because all I want is 10 seconds, and he won't give it to me. So
Oh, I know. And
he's
it
out
always
there.
seemed it
You
always
know,
seems like when you're going to have an encounter, it's when you least expect it, and that's what I tell people
absolutely.
too. It's going to happen when you least expect it. You know,
Yep.
just put in the time. You know, but
Yep.
I like your end game right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
get that video, and it's like, you know, what more do you want me to prove to you guys? You know,
Yeah.
what,
Because
what do you think
a
about
picture's
that?
not going to work. A picture's not going to work. It's just not going to work. We've done it. It happens 1,000 times a month. It just doesn't work. Video isn't great, but the thing is, with video is it answers questions. You take the Patterson Gimlin film; they were able, due to its motion, determine a lot about the creature. See what I'm saying? So I think
Hmm.
motion is really, really important to catch this thing moving. Like the Freeman footage, or the Patterson Gimlin film. There's a few others out there I really like a lot. But when you see this thing in motion, you're able to answer a lot of questions. And that's what I want. I just want something like that I can present it to the Bigfoot community and say, here it is. This is what I got. You could bash it, like it, hate it. I don't care, because as of today, I wipe my hands of the whole thing and I'm moving on to something else. So
Yeah, and that brings me back to what I said earlier. It's like, how are you going to tell me what I seen with my own eyes? I mean,
absolutely.
you know what you saw. You know you're telling the truth. But that's another thing is I believe it's the Department of Interior that runs the parks and forests and things like that.
I believe
Um,
so.
until I don't know why. I got a couple theories why they won't admit they're out there. They know they're out there. They probably, I know they recovered bodies of them, but I probably a lot of it has to do with money, like the
It's
tourism,
always money. I
fishing,
don't think
hunting.
tourism.
Yeah,
I I've kind of gotten away from the whole tourism thing, because I'll tell you why. People think that if they're told that, hey, Sasquatch is real, it is there. Let's use Yellowstone, since that's the most popular park. It's there. It's out there. There's family units. They are real. I don't think it's gonna. It will. Some people are like, well, I'm not going out there again. But really think about it. People are still camping out there, knowing that there's grizzly bears that will
yeah,
kill them, moose that'll kill them. Moose is responsible for a lot of deaths. We see it all the time in the news where a bison kills somebody, or gorges them. That has not stopped anybody from going out there. It has not stopped them from taking photographs of these things. So I don't think tourism is really going to be affected all that much. Some people will, but I think a lot more people end up going out there because they now, especially unbelievers, they're like, oh crap, I was wrong. This thing, now I'm going to go camping and I want to get a picture of this thing. See what I'm saying? So I don't think
yeah,
tourism, but I think the biggest one is the forestry. Um, because when the spotted owl was found, it shut down that industry overnight. It shut it down.
yep,
And at that time, it was a $800 billion a year industry, and it shut it down. See what I'm saying? So
hmm,
those people, the forestry has lobbyists. It's 800 billion. They can afford lobbyists. And these lobbyists are going to get with senators and congressmen and stuff like that to prevent anything like that from ever happening again. I also believe if Bigfoots are being hunted and killed, it's the forestry department that's doing it. I think they're hiring outside help to say, hey, I don't want this thing known to be on this land because we need to harvest these trees. We need to eradicate them or move them out. See what I'm saying?
hmm,
And I think that's where it comes from, because that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And they're not going to lose that money. See what I'm saying? So I think that is one of the biggest ones. See what I'm saying? Then people bring
yep,
in religion. What's going to rewrite religion? I don't think so. See what I'm saying? The spectrum of religion is so broad in the world as it is. See what I'm saying? Regardless of what it is or what it isn't, it's I don't think it's ever going to change people's beliefs and what they believe as far as religion goes. You could tell me this thing is whatever. It's not going to change me as a Christian. It's not going to change me as a Buddhist. It's not going to see what I'm saying. So I don't think
hmm.
that one. I mean, it will for some. It always will for some. I don't think it's the majority, but I think the forestry one is the biggest. I think that's the largest.
I mean, it could rewrite some history books. I mean, just say, and I could be totally wrong. It is a type of relic hominid that survived alongside of us modern day humans. Well, we were told for thousands of years we're the only ones that exist around here. Now we know there's some another type of human species out there that survived alongside of us. You know,
Well, now they've
it
proven there's
will.
a lot more. It wasn't just us and them. At one point, there were 4 or 5 different species of hominoid living on Earth at the same time. See what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah,
Because
they even found
science,
little ones.
yeah. So, and that's where I'm not solid on anything. So I don't want anybody upset with me. Because when we use the word primate, humans are primates also. So that's pretty broad
Hmm.
term in general aspects. But I still lean towards it being a relic hominid. It's another species of a hominid that has somehow learned to exist and survive alongside of us. A prime example. I mean, do you know how long gorillas have been on the face of the earth? Gorillas.
I don't know the exact how long. I just know they were found like, well, at a time that people were saying that they existed often, like those mountain gorillas and everything,
Right.
silverbacks, and everybody's like, "Oh no, there's nothing like that," and all of a sudden, boom, they're starting to
Yeah.
walk up on them.
Well, they took it
So,
serious, and science went out there to prove it wrong, actually, and then they found them. Gorillas have been on the face of the earth for 7 to 10 million years. Okay,
wow,
according to science. You know how long humans have been on this earth?
no, I don't have the exact
Three
date.
300,000 years. That's just a drop in the bucket compared to gorillas. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask somebody who's been here longer, Sasquatch or humans, see what I'm saying? So
Oh
how
yeah,
long? See what I'm saying? So now you're starting to look at it, it's like, wait a minute, it's putting things in perspective now. See what I'm saying? The bad thing about humans is we're a cancer. You know what I mean? We bred crazily. I mean, we just bred. You know what I mean? Our
hmm,
nation is now what 250 years old, and we're now look at back 250 years ago how many people were living in the United States. Now we're at 330 million. See what I'm saying?
yeah, it's a
So
lot.
just our overpopulating has really what has drawn all these other animals to extinction and or to hiding places and stuff like that. So I think that's what has happened to the Sasquatch is um, at one point it probably happily lived alongside of us, but as we grew and as we continued to get smarter and as we became more warlike and
Hmm.
overpopulating, um, it pushed them away. It pushed them to the outskirts and into the forest, and that has now hurt them as a populace. See what I'm saying? Because we talked about
Yeah,
that earlier. There's areas that, like I said, there's an area here in Florida. It's 90,000 acres. It's a huge area, very very active Sasquatch area, very active. Numerous research groups go out there, and that was where I had my very first encounter. And but there's no place to go. That 90,000 acres sounds huge, but that is your whole world. See what I'm saying? There's no other
hmm,
place to go because there's nothing but major highways around it, flat open space farmland, and residential areas. See what I'm saying? So they would be
yeah,
seen, they would be endangered and stuff like that. So they stay hidden, they stay closed in that 90,000 acres. That's where we brought up the idea that there might be an issue as far as inbreeding. You know what I mean? But
yep,
because they're going to do what they can to survive and continue their populace and live their lives. That's why I'm a big on. People get pissed. I don't know why they get pissed when I say I'm about conservation with these creatures. I'm about conservation for every animal. I don't hunt no more. I don't hurt animals. The job that I have to occasionally have to deal with snakes and stuff like that, and not one do I kill. Not one. I just I'm big on persevering, preserving life in general, and just snakes have a purpose. They're there for a purpose. Let them live that purpose. Bear has a purpose. Let it live its purpose. You know what I mean? Granted, occasionally you get an animal that has become a nuisance. You know what I mean? But I'm still not
yeah,
big on killing it. Like here, if an alligator becomes a nuisance alligator, it's dispatched immediately. And I think it's only because we have over 1 million of them in the state of Florida. There's so many of them, they don't think twice about dispatching them. But me, why don't you load it up, take it to the Everglades, put it on an airboat, take it out in the middle of the Everglades, and drop it off? It's never going
yeah.
to find civilization again. it's not going to come back to a neighborhood again. It's not going to find its way in a pond or a canal in somebody's backyard. The Everglades is huge, hundreds of millions of acres. It's huge. You know what I mean? But now you
Oh yeah.
preserved it. It's living. Take it out there and let it survive. Let it do its thing. But that's just me. You know what I mean? That's just me.
Oh, oh no, I totally get what you're saying. Even though I do hunt and fish, there's a lot of times I just don't even keep my fish. I throw them back. I only,
Well, I'm all for somebody feeding themselves. If you're feeding,
yeah,
you're
I
putting,
just one
I'm for
deer,
that.
I'm good. Exactly. That's why I do it. But what you were talking about, at one point, what we were saying the other night on the phone, what was it, Monday night? At one point, Native Americans have been talking about these creatures
Mhm.
for forever. We were just not listening. They were living alongside, side by side, and even talk about trading with each other. And then
Yep.
something must have happened, for them to create some distance. But you know, I would love to talk to a Native American about them. It's just hard up here because they they got to really trust you. They're
Yep.
just not going to openly. You got to gain that trust, and it's probably going to take some years to gain that trust as well. But yeah, they were right the whole time.
Oh
We
yeah.
just weren't listening.
I've spoken about it with the because down here we have the Seminole Indians, and if you go back, you can Google it, and the history of the Seminole Indians goes back almost somewhere between 11 to 14,000 years. That's a long time. See what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
so they have a lot more knowledge than we have of the past. See what I'm saying? Just of the past. Um, when modern humans, and we'll use Columbus or Ponce de Leon, whichever one you want to use that came to the United States or came to Florida and stuff like that. Like Ponce de Leon is the reason why we have a hog problem. Because when they showed up on the shores, he had 6 hogs. It's logged in their entries, and those
yeah.
6 hogs escaped. And now look where we're at, and we're infested. I mean, we're just got hogs everywhere. You know what I mean?
Oh, they're all over the United States now.
Yeah, it's just spread.
Except for up here, but I think it's a little too cold. They just got them on game reservation. Those hunting farms, but they're told to get rid of them now.
Yeah,
So yeah, they bred like whew, like wild.
yeah. Yep. And that's my biggest fear is a hog. So I try to stay away from them. If I see them, and you can smell them too. There was a time I was at Mayaca State Park, and I was hiking, and I could hear a group of them across a creek from me. I could hear them squealing and horting and hotting and just, and I started to get very quiet. I did not want to draw any attention to myself with hogs, you know. Um, but that's really the only thing I worry about. I don't worry about Florida Panthers or bears and stuff like that. And
Uh,
and I talked to Jeff Meldrum one time. I got an opportunity to sit down and talk to him, and I asked him. I said, "Well, how many Bigfoot do you think are in the state of Florida?" And he said, "Well," he goes, and he uses this mathematical equation that deals with bears, and because that's
mhm.
the closest thing we have as far as migration and feeding and all this to compare. And he says, I estimate anywhere from 80 to 120 Sasquatch in the state of Florida. You know, um,
Yeah.
and that's a very small number. When Florida Panthers, we have about 200 Florida Panthers, and I'm born and raised here, and I've yet to see one in the wild. Yet, see what I'm saying?
I've o-
So,
I've only
yeah,
seen one, and that was by luck when I was living down there, and it was out towards Okeechobee.
yeah. And to see one run across the road or something like that, grant yourself lucky to see it. I mean, really grant yourself lucky because you probably won't see it again. And and that's one of my goals is if I can at least get a panther, on my trail cam, I know I can get a Bigfoot at some point. It's just being at the right place at the right time of year. Everything's got to fall into place, which probably is unlikely, but I know it can be done. See what I'm saying? If I can get that panther on there, I just, like I said, I got to find the right location. That's why I'm constantly moving locations. I'll spend a month or two in one location, and then I'll go to another location, and not far. It's like I want my locations to overlap each other, and start widening and start and go further and further out and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I believe it was on your page, Bigfoot Florida guy. One guy posted something on there. It was like a camera inside of a log, and I
yeah, that
really love the idea of that. And I commented on there. I told him how I love the idea. So like hiding a camera like that, and that kind of goes back to the question Jerry asked earlier, or putting it up higher in a tree, maybe facing downwards. Because I mean, how many times do you just walk in the woods and you're just looking up?
right,
You just don't really do that, you know? I mean,
right.
who's to say these things wouldn't do it either, you
Well,
know?
hiding it in a log or hiding or camouflaging the look of a log is not new. There are researchers that have done that and have done that for quite some time. Um, the key thing is I don't want to block that infrared. I need it to
Yeah.
trigger. So I definitely need that visible where, but hiding it, because I hide my audio. I've had squirrels and birds all around my audio and stuff like that. It's good to hide things. We do it to ourselves when we hunt. We hide ourselves. We camouflage ourselves. Um, but I definitely need that infrared because that's the trigger. That's what's going to set this thing off so I can catch this thing. So, any questions in the crowd, guys? Throw them at us because we're about to call it quits. We've gone 2 hours, dude. Goes
Yeah,
fast,
the
doesn't
time.
it?
Yeah, it does. Just like when we
Yeah.
had you on our show, it was like, whoa. I think we went up to 2.5 hours that night or something like that.
I don't
Just went,
remember.
it
But
went
it's
by
great when you have
quick.
a conversation. Oh yeah, when you're talking about a subject that we enjoy so much, you know what I mean. Time flies, and I think that's like the crowd, and the people in the chat room. They enjoy the subject. They could be a non-believer or a believer. They enjoy the subject, so it doesn't really matter. And we're lucky enough that everybody is so respectful. The whole chat, it's always very respectful, very good. They don't bash each other for ideas or theories or anything like that. I don't mind somebody disagreeing with me. I'm one of those researchers. I do not take it personal. You know what I mean? Everybody has an idea and a theory. I've got researchers that I peer review with, let's say. They don't always agree with me, and I don't always agree with them, but we're still good friends. You know what I mean? Because we respect each other, respect what we're doing, and we're all out there trying to find answers. So, but I have a funny
I,
feeling you and Todd are going to look at this and say, "Hey, man, we might want to do Streamyard."
yeah, I got the idea in my head. Actually, when you just brought that up, me and Todd don't agree on everything, but we'll listen to each other's opinions. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, so why do you believe like this? Like, and we'll have that discussion, and you
yeah,
can without getting mad. That's what I love about your channel, your page on Facebook as well. It's like I love having the discussions on there, and everybody throws out their opinions, their thoughts, and their ideas, and nobody bashes each other at all. That's one thing I love about your page.
yeah. And it's really funny that
Opposed
you
to
say that.
others.
It's really funny, this goes to anybody that's in the chat room. If you've ever been to my Facebook page, it's Bigfoot Florida guy. I try to make it interactive, so I create these discussion questions, and I put them out there to create a discussion. Let's talk about this particular subject, whatever it is that at that time. Here's the funny thing, though. I can post it on my page, and it's a great conversation. There's a few other channels I could post it on. Great conversation. But there are
Hmm.
other ones that as soon as it posts on it, because I'll post it on like 30 different Facebook pages. You're talking about utmost disrespect. Utmost disrespect. See what I'm saying? So it
Yep.
lets me know what are the legitimate Bigfoot Facebook pages and which ones are not. See what I'm saying? I can tell you
Uh-huh.
right now, if there's a Bigfoot page out there that says the word believer in it, avoid it at all costs.
I
Avoid it
actually
at all
just got
costs.
I just got
Okay.
kicked from one that had that name on
Yep.
it, and they did
There.
not like what I had to say because
Nope.
they posted this video. You ever heard of Maxwell Fear?
No.
If you go on YouTube, type in Maxwell Fear, he will show you videos of Oliver the chimp, things like that, and say, "This is the
Yeah.
most credible evidence of Bigfoot
Right.
ever, caught on
Right.
trail camera." And I said, I don't know why people post this guy's videos so much. He always shows the fakest videos. That's all I
Because these
said, and
pages.
boom, I got banned.
Yep. Because these pages are non-believers. Okay, and most of them are bots. If you go to a Facebook page that says Bigfoot Believers and there's 200,000 subscribers, avoid that page because I
All
would
right.
guarantee you 90% of it are fake people. And those that are there, non-believers. They're non-believers. They're
Yeah,
waiting. They're waiting for you to post. They're waiting for you to say something so that they can jump on it and attack you. So I go with the smaller channels, especially people that I know, but mostly smaller channels, especially channels that are actually moderating their channel. See what I'm saying?
hmm
Um, I have an open mind. I have rules on my page, and I wish people would read the rules because I make it abundantly clear. My page is about Bigfoot. I don't get into anything else other than that. And
yeah,
it says in the rules, please keep the subject on Bigfoot. That's what we're about here. But on the other hand, I promote other people's podcasts. I want them to be successful. So I now have people that have, for example, Dogman um, podcasts. So they're posting on my thing. So I am allowing them to post. I'm allowing it to go through, but I want things to stick to Bigfoot as much as possible. Now, if I don't allow something on there that's paranormal, it's not personal. It's not against the person. It's absolutely. But I've made it very clear in the rules: nothing paranormal or metaphysical. See what I'm saying? So it's
absolutely.
not personal. It's not personal. Next week, post something that's Bigfoot related, and I'll prove it. But I try to stick to what I'm true to and what I believe in because it is my page. In the end, it is my page. I moderate it. It's mine, and I want to stick to this topic. See what I'm saying? Um,
Yep.
Everything else just muddies the waters, and I really don't want that. But I do have a very interactive. I create every week. I create a short story where I have a character named Jack, and he's got an assistant named Maria, and they're out there looking for Bigfoot. So I do these short stories every week where people can read them, and kind of every week they have something to look forward to. That there's the next adventure of Jack and Maria. Um, Now that I say that, other pages will start doing the same thing because they're already doing my discussion pictures and they're already doing my discussion questions. I see them all doing it, but it's a lot of
Oh,
fun.
I love them.
Um, yeah, imitation is the best flattery, right? Um,
Yeah,
what does that say? For what it's worth, I'm a friends of we serve together. I would have to say he is an honest person. Yeah, we'll put that up there because it's praising you. Can you read that? That's your buddy
yeah,
Jerry.
yeah. I know
Since
Jerry's a really good guy.
yeah, he sounds like he's a really good guy.
Oh, he's awesome.
Yeah. So, wait, did he
um,
serve with you over in Japan?
not in Japan. He was actually he was in the army. We were all around,
Oh,
probably serving during the same time period.
right, right.
Because I got friends that were, Army, Marines, Air Force. I got them all. I think everything except for Coast Guard, but that's nothing against them. It's, you know,
Right.
but well, forgot what yeah, I love your pages. I love those discussions. They are very awesome. I love partaking in them. Um, it's just a really good time. Also like Marie's group, it's same thing as with yours. It's same thing. We get in there, we have those discussions, and she'll watch for those people just like you do. If they get out of hand, boom, you're gone. And I
Right.
love that. You know,
Yeah. I monitor it on a daily basis. Now, granted, I'm not perfect. Some things may slip by, but if somebody notifies me and says, "Hey, Rick, this is what was said, and this is very disrespectful," trust me, I'll remove it. I will remove it. You know what I mean? I want a very positive. I'm very big on positive energy and positive people being positive. That's why I love my chat room so much. So if somebody's in there being negative and being disrespectful, I'll ban them. I'll get rid of them. See what I'm saying? I've already
Hmm.
banned two people. I banned two people because not only was one of them very disrespectful, but in the end, I don't like either one of these people as a person. So I don't want
Yeah.
them in there because I don't want them causing problems or creating issues or anything like that. Um, I like to surround myself with good people, just good people. That's what I want to be around. You know what I mean? And sometimes I make mistakes. I think somebody's good, and I invest in that person, as a friend, and then they show me that they are not who they say they are. And that's happened to me a few times in the Bigfoot community. And I just cut ties with them. That's it. I just move on. I cut ties.
Yeah.
It's a very big, it's a huge, not just community, but it's a huge industry. So Bigfoot is a $1 billion a year industry. If you don't believe me, go to Amazon, type in Bigfoot, and hit search. You're going to find
Oh, I
hats,
know.
shirts, magnets, lamps. I mean, everything you could possibly imagine that has a Bigfoot on it. It's on Amazon. Jack Links, they use Bigfoot to sell their product. You've got soaps, you got shampoos. It's a very big industry. See what I'm saying?
Movies and
Uh,
shows too, as well.
Absolutely,
It's all over the place.
absolutely, it is absolutely. And I use a lot of AI, but I'm very open about AI. That it's only for the topic. Because if I create a discussion question, I want a picture to go with it. See what I'm saying? I want a picture to go with it to say,
Yeah.
but I got so many people that want to comment on the picture, but not the context. There's a question in there, guys. I want your opinion on the question. I don't care about the picture. The picture is just to draw your eyes to the question. You know what I mean?
I'm the
You don't.
exact opposite. I
Yeah,
look for your question and I'm like, oh, okay, that's a cool picture, but I'm going to answer that question. That's why I'm
yeah.
there and participate.
Because I take that information. A lot of people don't realize is I'm always researching. I'm always taking in information. Like that picture I showed you earlier. I've shown it before, and I'll show it to the people that are in the chat room now. I'll pull it up on the screen again. Now, I take the information from these discussion questions and I build a information from it. I get an idea of where people's thoughts are and what they're thinking about as far as the subject and stuff like that. But this particular picture, I went in and I said, okay, I want to look at what people are saying when they describe Bigfoot. So, for example, I could take your description, the mouth, the eyes, the hair, the forehead, all that, um, and I'll list it all out. Now, some I have to throw out. If somebody says it had blue eyes, well, he's 1 in 100, so I can't use the blue eyes because it would not follow the pattern of the other 100. So I'm taking the majority. It's not 100%. It's the majority of the information I got to create this image. So I took all this information, all the descriptions of Bigfoot, and I asked AI. I listed it all in there, every item, and I said, create an image of Bigfoot using this criteria that I had listed for you. Okay, and it created the picture, and I'll show you that picture. That was the
Yeah,
picture.
that's a
See
pretty
what I'm
wild
saying?
picture right there. That's awesome.
And I used all the descriptions. Now I have a full body that's zoomed in because um, the body has always been the same, very muscular, hairy stuff like that. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
the face is what's the most important because people discuss: is it more ape-like, is it more human-like, or whatever. So I took the majority, and this is what AI came out with and said this is what people are describing. So when I posted that, I got a lot of great feedback. I mean, a lot of people are like, that is what I saw. That is what I saw. See what I'm saying? But of course,
Hmm.
you're going to get those ones and say, wow, that's nothing like what I saw. That's nothing. Well, it's either you didn't see a Bigfoot or you're not reading the question, because I made it very clear this is not going to match everybody's description, but they want to bitch about it anyways. But for the majority, that's what, and I'll put it up again, that is what AI said, the majority said it looked like. See what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
it took the description what you put in and it applied it.
Absolutely. And it was a lot of information. It took me about literally a week to go through. I went back, rewatched interviews on, and got to the portion where they described the face, and I would jot it down on paper, and then I would go to reports on the BFRO or anywhere I could get information. I was accumulating this information and writing it down. So when I went into the AI program, I listed it all out. I didn't want my description. I wanted to list it out and say, now create an image using this criteria and make it as realistic as possible. And that's what it came up with. And I think it's pretty impressive. I think it's a very interesting picture. Very interesting. See what I'm saying?
Oh, it
So,
definitely is. Oh, when we get off the when we
because
get
I have
done,
fun stuff. Let me show you
yeah,
this. I create these. I just created these for fun. I might use on the show. Like if somebody says something funny,
yeah,
you
I like that.
know what I mean? Now that's AI, and that's not putting the criteria in there. See what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
And I just thought these are all. I created these and said, I might use these at different portions and shows and stuff down the road and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
oh,
And
definitely do that.
you know, um, but that was the criteria right there. And now, of course, when I use the program now, it it refers to that picture as for the other ones. You see some similarities because it's still using some of that information. So let me see.
Uh,
Let me catch up here with Anderson. This is what you mentioned earlier about the gorillas, the number of them, and the number of humans, etc. What if they lived with them, the last of them, like a piece of evolution left behind? I don't know. I'm one of those researchers that I'll tell you I don't know. I just know that when I Googled it and I was researching gorillas, gorillas have been here 7 to 10 million years, and humans have only been here 300,000. So gorillas have not evolved very much in 10 million years. You know what I mean? Um,
mhm.
but humans evolved very quickly, very quickly. Um, to
There's
brings
a
up the
bunch
question.
of different human species. We did a episode early on when we first started off a different human species, and you'd be amazed how many of them there actually were.
Oh,
Denisovans, the Neanderthals, the Homo sapiens, this one, that one. They even found ones that look like tiny little hobbit people, little skeletons, and that's amazing as well. They have ones in Africa where they would live more up in the trees because how tiny they were. So
well,
there's been
absolutely. Yeah, I think the environment is what changes everything. So, like this question right here says, maybe the Native Americans pushed them out 10,000 years ago, like the modern man pushed them out. I don't think that's the case because I think the big push came when Europeans came here. I think that was the big push. I think Indians were fine living alongside them, even if there was animosity or anything like that down the road. I don't think Indians had the ability like we do to with guns and cannons and different, because we're a warring human race. We could push things out a lot faster and a lot harder than I think the Indians and stuff like that. I think if Indians pushed you away, then far enough that they're safe, they're going to go back to living their lives until you disrupt it again. Humans don't. Humans tend to continue to push until extinction is the only answer. It's a horrible thing to say, but it is what we are. What we are. That's what we've done. So, and history proves it. So,
Well, even the Native Americans referred to Sasquatch, Bigfoot, where you like to refer to them as the first tribe before they were even here. They said they were the first tribe as they started showing up and moving into these lands and stuff like that. So that's
right.
pretty amazing hearing that.
Yeah. And I
But
and I yes, they did, Jerry. He was asking, didn't they have paintings of large beings? Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. When we look at the history of the Seminole tribes, it goes back um, 11 to 14,000 years, and they even back then they had evidence and stuff of these creatures' existence. Look at Leif Erikson when he came
yeah, I
to
was
explore
about
the
to bring
United
that
States.
up.
It was in his journals that he had an encounter his ships with these creatures on the shoreline, and he described them as large, hair covered beings, like humans, on the beach. You know what I mean? And when as they came to shore, they ran off and scurried off into the woods. Um, so they've been around for a very, very long time. I do not believe they're part of Gigantopithecus at all. They
No,
don't even come close to meeting the criteria. Um, they don't look the same or anything like that. I Here's the thing: is this is what bothers me about science. They always talk about the Bering Sea Bridge that connected two continents, and almost every animal here they said came across the bridge. Well, I think that's absolutely impossible. The North American continent is Canada, United States, and South America, Mexico, and all that. This is the North American continent. It is massive. These things could have been here the whole time. They've probably been here the whole time. Not every animal came across the Bering Straits. I think a lot of animals were already here. I think there were some mammoths already here. See what I'm saying? I think there's a lot of creatures that were already. We know dinosaurs were already here. They've been found on every continent. So,
I was about to bring that up. Some are found here that aren't found, over in, Africa, Europe, other places.
yep. Well, I agree. He's talking about Pangea, how it was one continent, one side at one time. Um, yeah, quite possibly. But when it broke apart, you're still stranded on whatever piece of land you're on. You know what I mean? So at one point, maybe it was one mass. You know, the pieces seem to fit, but it's still a theory because none of us were here at that time. But and then when it separated, everybody got isolated to whatever continent they're on, and that's where they survived. The North American continent has been a very fruitful and productive continent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
These things are actually found all over the world. They got them. They're like in China known as the urine or something like that. The yowie down there in Australia. The
mhm.
almas up there in Russia. The woodwose over there in Europe. They're all over. So
Yep,
and we got them here in America. I mean, come on, just look at how they get to Australia. That's
exactly.
amazing right there.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And there's amazing, and just so everybody knows, I got to. It might be September or it might be October, but I have a guy scheduled that is in Australia, and
oh really?
that's what he does. He's a Yowie researcher. He will be on the show, and I look forward to that interview and talking to him. There's a lot of similarities between the Yowie and the North American Bigfoot. A lot of similarities. They find some of the same evidence, the size, the looks, it's everything is the same. So I'm really interested in talking to him. Very interested.
Yeah, I would. Oh yeah, I got to look out for that show because me and Todd did an episode on the Yowie, and I swear they had like two different kinds. One that was bigger, and then one that was smaller. But they were found in two different areas in Australia as well. But so I would like to know if there's some truth to that as well. Do they
Right.
have a smaller type one there?
Right. Well, it's like even here up in the Northeast, like Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire area, they have the Indians have the puckwudgie. Okay,
Yeah,
and
we got
depending
that
on
legend here.
descriptions, it yeah, it's a smaller kind of Ewok size Sasquatch. See what I'm saying? That's
Hmm.
mischievous and will steal from you and and stuff like that. It's a lot smaller, but it's called a puckwudgie. But it depends on the description because sometimes when you look up puckwudgie and you see the pictures of some of the descriptions, I'm like, okay, they're seeing a porcupine. You know what I mean? I'm looking at it
Oh, I
like I can
know.
see that it. If a porcupine stands up, which they do, they get up on their hind legs. It would look just like a puckwudgie the way they're describing it. You know what I mean? But that
Yeah,
might be their way of explaining a porcupine. Who knows? See what I'm saying? We don't
yeah.
have porcupines in Florida, so I don't have to worry about it. But to have a small, I'm open minded that there could be a smaller breed or uh, relic hominid, call it whatever, puckwudgie or whatever you want to call it, that could exist. I mean, because there's a lot of stories of these smaller, hairier, little hairy creatures that, they're not baby Bigfoots. They're actually a different breed and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
who
you would
knows?
probably like looking into the Moon Eye people. Yeah, you've been up there in the Carolinas. It's big up
Yeah,
there. The Moon Eye people, and they went to war with the Cherokee and everything. Check that out. It's pretty cool, and they
yeah,
chased them out of the area.
right.
But then they were supposed to be smaller people as well. So I
Well,
do
there.
like getting into the smaller ones as well too. It's fascinating to me.
Oh yeah, I like to read a lot. Like my very first passion when I was a kid, I was never into Bigfoot. My first passion was the Loch Ness monster. That was what I because the lock it said monster in the title, so of course I'm interested. And then, back then in the 1970s, it was very popular, Loch Ness monster. And then of course, with Patterson, the Patterson Gimlin film came out and stuff like that. I think the very first movie that actually scared the living crap out of me was The Legend of Boggy Creek. I remember watching that as I was at a drive-in theater, and it scared the living crap out of me. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
so I remember watching that again when I was probably, I don't know, 12, 13 years old. And my I wanted to rent a movie, and this is when we had Blockbuster, so you had to go in and rent a movie. It was a VHS. So my parents were going out, and they said, "Okay, you're gonna stay home, and we'll get y'all a movie and popcorn." Because at that age, I can be home by myself. So I decided to get The Legend of Boggy Creek again. Scared the scared the living shit out of me again. You know what I mean? It's a scary movie, man. Now I can watch it and go, okay, because I have a better understanding. But as a child, I can understand how this thing is extreme. I wouldn't wish any child to have an experience with one of these things because it's got to be absolutely frightening. It was frightening for me as an adult. I can just imagine a child. You know what I mean? And now I understand why grandparents and stuff, that culture would say, hey, you need to come in, when the lights come on, or the boogie monster is going to get you. They
yeah.
they lived off that. They wanted that fear in you. They wanted you to fear it. So
I heard that as a kid, and I would laugh at it. It's like who's the booger man, And my
yeah,
childish mind would just start imagining like a large booger, Like I don't get it, So, but now I do. As like I started looking more into the subject, I was like, oh, that's what they were talking about.
yeah.
So,
Well, see, down here, we don't use the term so much as booger, but we have booger lights. We do call it a skunk ape or swamp ape or whatever. But I live out in the country, and when I drive to work, there's literally I have to go into town to get food or whatever I need for work. Coffee, gas, because the entire drive, 40 minutes to work, there's nothing. There's not a store. There's nothing, and it's woods, open, cattle fields and farmhouses and stuff like that. And but every one of those homes has a booger light, right?
Hmm.
Not at the house, out in the yard. I mean,
Yeah, I
away
know what
from
you're
the
talking
house
about.
to light up the whole yard. And I laugh, because I know what they are, and I'm like, those are all booger lights. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, I'd love to stop and talk to some of those people, but the farmers here are very, they're friendly, but they're not that friendly. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
They're never going to give you permission to come on their property and hike and check things out or anything like that. But they'll talk to you, but they probably won't talk. There is one guy I do want to stop and talk to because I've been driving this area for 4 years now, going to work and back, and finally this one house put up one of those wooden Sasquatch in his front yard. So I want to stop as that being a open invite to bring it up. You know what I mean? And say, hey, I like that thing. It's pretty cool. Why did you do that?
Yeah.
Why did you put that up? Why not deer or other things? But you put a Bigfoot out there. Why? He might have a story. You
Yeah,
know
I
what I
put the
mean?
feelers out there. Yeah.
Yeah, Tamiami Trail. Well, it's like the what we call Alligator Alley. It's a road. It's a straight line road from
Oh,
Miami straight across to Naples in Fort
yeah, I
Myers
know
and that
where.
area, straight across the state, and it's all fenced in now. See what I'm saying? But when I was a
Oh,
kid,
is
you
it?
drove it. Oh yeah, it's very high fence. Like 10, 12 foot tall fence on each side. I think it's to keep the deer and the alligators from crossing the road because it used to be so bad that vehicles were stopped because there's alligators in the road and deer and stuff like that, and you couldn't you had to wait. Um,
Yeah.
but now they got that up, so it's really fast highway now. Um, but you get a sense of the forests in Florida taking that road and that isolation when you take that road. You know what I mean? Um,
Hmm.
Beautiful area, a lot of swamps, and you can't drive that road if you're a passenger in a car and you're looking out the window, um, and just because it's a canal that runs almost the entire length on both sides. Um, you'll see alligators every single time. You'll see alligators. So a lot of wildlife. Jerry said he did work at the Everglades Observatory. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I would love a job where I'm out there and stuff. I was offered a position at um, the migrant camp down there, the migrant facility that they just opened up in Florida.
Oh, okay.
The you know, um, I was hit up due to what I do for a living. They hit me up and said, "Would you be interested in stuff like that?" I told them I would. We'd have to talk about it, and I haven't heard a call back or anything like that. I would talk to them about it. I would entertain a conversation. Let's put it that way. But you go down there, and you actually live there for a week, and then you come back on the weekends, and you go back for a week. You actually live on compound. You're actually when you get there, you're there, and it's 12-hour shifts every single day, and
Oh,
then
wow.
the week, yeah, and then the weekends you come back. So
Yeah, they
yeah,
probably have
Jerry.
to make the money worth it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a big move, Florida to New Jersey. That's what Jerry's saying. He misses Florida. A lot of
uh, I
cottonmouths.
I I thought. I mean, it is my home state. I'm born and raised Floridian. I miss the saltwater fishing, but I love it up here too. Like
Yeah,
I don't really want to leave either. I got used to it. So,
yeah.
but it's always fun to go
Well,
back to my home state.
yeah. I'm fourth generation Floridian, so I don't think I'm going anywhere. I think I'll die here.
Yeah,
So.
but
All right. Well, we've gone 2.5 hours. You probably need to call it quits. So we're just chit chatting. That's awesome. But I want to thank everybody that watched the show. You guys are awesome. Adam was a great guest. We had a lot of fun. You've got my number. I got your number. Keep it. Always keep it. We'll stay in touch. Always drop me a line anytime. I'm pretty much available. I don't have wife and kids, so um, I have a lot of free time. But um, great show. You guys are awesome. The chat room was amazing. Look forward to next week. Next week we have another great guest, and this is a guy in Florida. So he'll have some interesting things to say, and we have some um, um, mutual experiences, I'm sure, from being in the state of Florida. He has a lot of wildlife experience, which is interesting. We had a great conversation on bears and panthers one time. Um, so a fantastic guy. I want to thank you again, Adam, for being here. You're awesome. Let Todd know we are going to have him on the show at some point, but I know he's going through some health issues. Trust me, I went through it the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
As soon as he's healthy, we'll schedule him down the road. We can get him in like September or something if he wants. Y'all know how to reach me. So all you
Yep.
gotta do is reach out and say he's healthy, he's ready. We'll set up a date, set it up, and make it happen. Not a problem at all. Um,
Yeah.
so
After we get off of here, I'll tell them the rights to you through the email or upcoming soon when you
yeah,
have some free time. And I'm going to be sending you some photos when I get off the phone. I wish I would have sent it beforehand of what, the best description I have, what it looked like to me. It was
right,
just uglier. That's all. And also, I'll
right.
send you a pretty big photo of a bear I got on trail cam last year. He was a belly dragger. His belly rubbed against the floor. I was
Wow,
going after
wow.
him. So,
All right,
but
guys. Um, we're gonna end the show, and I'm gonna drop you backstage, and I'll be back there in just a moment. So everybody, take care. God bless, and we'll be talking to you soon. And just have a wonderful weekend. Get out in the woods, enjoy yourselves, and take care. And I thank you so much for being here.